going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. I know we started off later than usual. Of course, it's always Rob's fault.
It
so
is.
direct your ire towards him. You know where it rightfully belongs. But yeah, we're back with another live stream for you guys. Talking topics. Of the day, and of course the movie review. And to remind you, this month's theme is Secret Societies month. And today even for me, I wouldn't have necessarily thought of this movie as a Secret Society movie, but thinking about it some more, it is because that's eventually what it is created. And that is the movie Fight Club, starring Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, Helena Bonham Carter, and a up and coming Jared Leto.
Yeah, that's right. Like I had forgotten that he was in this movie because this is before some of his big hits like Requiem for a Dream and
before he started his band, was it like 30 Seconds to Mars?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You forget he's yeah. I mean, as for all his douchery, he is a Renaissance man in a way, because he acts, he's a musician.
I'm actually
he's
excited
into fashion.
Yeah,
there's a begrudging respect for him.
I think when given the right role, the guy can be great. And he, like I said, he does rub people the wrong way in a lot of ways. I know when he was doing Suicide Squad, they hated him so much. He got cut out. They cut him out of that movie so much. It's kind of sad because
I mean, he was pissed too because of how much they cut him out of it. Which could be retributionary. But I mean, that hasn't been substantiated. But given the hijinks that are reported to have gone on during the filming, I wouldn't be so surprised.
Well, he's part of that method school, so it's kind of he was
right. Yeah. He's doing like the Christian Bale, but I mean, did he become a meth addict? Did he become gay and get AIDS so he can do Dallas Buyers Club?
We don't know.
We don't know. I mean, because we know for certain that that Christian Bale became a meth addict and became a professional boxer just so he could play the role of Dickie. The character of Dickie and Fighter. What is it? 310 to Yuma. He went back in time. Became a Civil War vet and amputated his leg just so he can play the disfigured rancher in 310 to Yuma.
He kills me every time. He wanted to amputate his leg.
I know, exactly. And it's like, Christian, I think you're going a little too long. No, mate, I gotta cut off my leg if I'm gonna be authentic.
Insurance is not gonna cover it, man.
I know, right? I mean, I don't know I don't know if that's a meme, but I don't think anyone's ever talked about it like this as much as we do. So I think maybe we are the originator of this meme format.
Well, it's funny because there is a it's the I'm forgetting the title of the episode right off the moment, but it's the episode where Homer causes Apu to lose his job at the Quickie Mart, and the guy that takes over for him is James Woods.
Yeah.
His job interview, it's like they're looking at it, it's like, wait a second, this isn't a resume. This looks like the resume of a Hollywood actor. It's
right, yeah.
And he's like, in Chaplin, I actually went back in time. It's like,
I said too much. Yeah.
Oh.
And there's your Simpsons reference for the day. And maybe that's where we got the idea.
That's probably where I got the idea. But
Yeah.
God, Christian Bale, I mean, he really goes. I mean, because what was it? The mechanic was like where he like lost so much weight.
Right, and then
It was
he
so
went from
amazing.
that and then to bulk up to like over 200 pounds to play Batman in Batman
Yeah,
Begins.
it's just like that your body can't take that too often.
I know, it's
That
just like, because that's basically, binging and purging, that's basically yo-yo dieting. So
yeah,
that could really screw you up. Like, your next time you try to like lose weight or whatever, your body's, it's going to be harder because your body's going to, is in this constant like survival mode. So it's like whatever weight or, whatever mass you do accumulate, or like what, like in terms of fat, like it's gonna hold on to it for dear life. It's like, I don't know when like we're gonna eat again, so I have to hold, your body's gonna react that way. It's like, oh, I gotta hold on to this fat for longer, because I don't know when the next time we're gonna eat.
yeah.
I mean, unless he, and I'm sure he did it safely, uh, by just, kind of like similarly to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, when the character of Mac, he was written to gain weight. The way I heard
Gain the weight.
Rob, yeah, Rob, what's I forget his last name is, but the actor, he did it like kind of the smart way and just kind of put on the weight through eating lots of protein.
Yeah, so it was easy. It was kind of an easy way to gain the weight in a semi-healthy way.
Right.
But then, like when he was ready to lose the weight, it was not going to be so hard.
Yeah, and I mean it's funny because like it's almost that level of Christian Bale dedication, but I just thought it was great that he wrote himself getting fat on the show, and
Well,
then
because
and
he's one of the writers for the show. That's
yeah,
so. I mean,
yeah,
it's
he
his
actually,
show.
yeah, he created, it's his show. He created it along with one of the other actors. But yeah, he wrote it into the show that he was gonna get fat, and then he wrote it into the show that he was gonna get jacked and and lose all that weight. But it's a pretty good, it's a pretty smart way of kind of having getting like the best like nutritionists or trainers on the studio dime.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Oh
but
man.
but
But yeah, no. So I'm really excited to talk about Fight Club. I think it's this is one of those movies. There's a lot to dive into. It's almost as intensive as like Eyes Wide Shut was.
yeah, no, this is yeah. Because this movie came out in '99, and it was like it was just in that
Yeah.
time with like with Eyes Wide Shut and like Matrix and all of the, and I even think no, maybe that was early 2000, but like Requiem for a Dream I think came out around that time
That
too.
was 2000, I believe. I think that was the next
Well, okay,
year.
with
So
it like, yeah, so within that window of like '98 to like 2002.
yeah,
Within that 4 year window. But yeah, it's there are some people who like absolutely love this movie, and they what is it? This movie is very quotable. Um, and some people like really took to it, and kind of use it as like a philosophy. And I know that there are people who are uh, big fans of this movie too. But
it's a divisive movie
it's a
for sure.
divisive movie, but not like as divisive as. There's definitely more people who enjoyed this movie than who didn't enjoy this movie. At least that's the sense that I'm getting. Because I've seen more reviews like within like the positive range as opposed to like the critical uh, side.
Yeah, like and I'll talk about that a little bit like when we're doing the review because
Hmm.
yeah, there was this is one of those movies that definitely benefited from the home video DVD era.
Right, yeah, because yeah, even when it first initially came out, it wasn't that big of a success, but it kind of got out of the gate late, and then by the time like word of mouth got around, it was kind of like too late, and like I think they pulled the movie from theaters, but yeah, like it gained new life in the video and DVD market.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then this is absolutely one of my favorite movies. Just putting it out there right away. But yeah, well, we're gonna get into that a little bit later. But we got some topics to discuss, and at least one I know it's gonna go into the weeds. So like let's not pussyfoot around and just get into it. Yeah, so let's get started off with some of the gaming stuff.
Oh, man,
I know, yeah, and that's the one. I know that's the conversation that's gonna kind of.
It's gonna be a quick.
Yeah, it's gonna be all over, but.
Yeah. So, man, the gaming community has been it's been an interesting week for gamers. I actually had I don't know if you remember, because I know you're not like a super like gamer or anything, but you know enough where I don't know if you remember, like, do you remember G4 TV back in like the early 2000s?
I sure do.
Yeah,
well, I mean, not particularly all about the gaming stuff, but I do remember that one segment of Olivia Munn at Comic-Con as Slave Leia, and then she goes around like with like the toy lightsaber, like pretending to kill like all the other slave girls dressed up as slave Leia.
Well, here's the thing though, because G4 TV, like for people like me and like other gamers, like that was a big deal, because it's like, wow, we actually have not only like just a show, we have a channel that is dedicated to gaming, talking about games, and legitimizing gaming, like that. It's not just some
like the whole space too.
Right, it's not just about like some like loser in his basement that's like yay games, kind of like can't get a girlfriend. It's like, no, everybody plays games. Like it's fun, and it's not just fun, but it's actually like there's a lot of good art, and like there's a lot of artistic thought, good story writing, stuff like so it just kind of like legitimized it. And yeah, the people that were the kind of hosting the shows, like Olivia Munn, I mean, damn. I mean, Olivia Munn looked great. I mean, I'm not saying that that wasn't a reason that people tuned in. But here's the other thing about it: she wasn't just someone that looked good. She actually knew what the fuck she was talking about. Like, she actually knew about the game. She did a lot of gaming, and she did her homework. And
right, she wasn't just a pretty face. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it didn't hurt. Don't
right, no. I mean, but that's true about any like presenter or TV host. It's like yeah, like someone with like who has like really bad is it sclerosis, or like like kind of really bad like kind of complexion, and has maybe has like a big gap in their teeth, and kind of has like kind of like the kind of like the dingy like oily hairs. Like that's not fun to look at.
Right. And and the other thing too is like when people that host these shows, people don't want to tune into somebody that like either doesn't know what they're talking about or is uninterested. It's like you want to see someone that is genuinely excited, genuinely interested in the thing that they're talking about. And that was what was happening with G4 back in the day. It was a really great thing. And I think with the I think what one of the downfall of it was like the formation of like YouTube and stuff like that, where people started posting gaming content, and they were doing it for cheaper.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. The eventual democratization of like the gaming space, where it's no longer like you needed like millions of dollars and the studio space, and all these engineers and whatever. But now, like, yeah, like you or like some of the big early gaming content people on YouTube, literally did it for pennies on the dollar, with like a cheap like a webcam and screen capture software and or emulators and all that, and yeah, and so I think everything has its time, everything has its purpose, and I think G4 came at a time where where people were really looking for that kind of stuff. or you know, or came along just as you know, like you know, and discovered it, and like people didn't even know that this is what they were missing, you know, from their lives. And so you know, I think G4, you know, they serve their purpose. You know, I would say.
I would say,
Uh,
yeah, I think they did too. And so I actually had no idea that, quote unquote G4 was back. And
right, like yeah, like well, kind of like the trend that's been happening, you know, I guess in Hollywood or you know, just kind of like you know, entertainment generally is just kind of like the reboot or you know the revitalization
yeah,
of formerly or former beloved series. You know, you have your like Star Wars or Star Trek or you know what have you, or you know even Ghostbusters.
oh God.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I mean, if you catch on to my meaning, you obviously know you know where this is gonna lead to.
Well, and
But
here's the thing, because I watched kind of that. Well, from what I because right now you have to kind of like sort of Frankenstein it together as far as like the actual clips of the show, and
mhm.
um this woman who looks like a pixie fucked a troll, who yeah, and who to be honest, like I really feel I don't know if there was some legitimate comment or whatever, like someone's like, man, this is maybe they were mentioning something about the original show, like the original G4 and how like it's just not quite the same as what it was or whatever, and whatever this pixie troll I forget her Twitter handle or whatever she's known by, but anyways, she goes off on this like rant, and we've seen the 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 woke skull pointing their finger at their own fans and audience.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is if this is what it's referred to, but it's you know it's the you know she went full Anna Kasparian. It's like I'm better than you, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And she's pretty much like how, oh, we're this is a show that it's not about me looking good for you. It's and this show is written by like women, and it's like, okay, I don't care. Like first of all, like you don't yell at your freaking audience, the people that are trying to support you,
Right.
and
Yeah, and what is it? And it wasn't even, and it was kind of weird because she made the, or she put it out there where they're like, oh, there's all these people writing this there, and like, but like the amount of reviews that they were doing was not a very impressive one because it's like, oh, it takes like this many writers and we do this many reviews, you know, a week, but it's like, yeah, I wasn't impressed because like, you know, you have again, you have people kind of like us or you know, people early on in the YouTube, you know, gaming review space who literally did it for nothing and like was able to do like 10 like double the amount of reviews that she said that they did in a week, like again for nothing. So it's like, why are we like you know
yeah.
why do you think that that is like some sort of achievement? It's like you have a staff and like you know backers who are paying you to do this stuff, and you can't turn out as many as someone who's doing it for the genuine love of gaming or for the genuine love of the franchise of that particular game. It's like
And like the one guy one of the guys that was on that panel, whatever.
mhm.
Well, he actually is like a YouTuber, and he's Gerard, kind of the guy with the beard.
Mhm.
He does a show called The Completionist, which is actually very good. He that guy's insane, let me tell you, because he goes through and he will 100% complete a game. Like is the amount of work that guy puts in is insane.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it does have like a little bit of help, but for the most part, the guy's doing it himself. It's like
Mhm.
he's been doing it for years, and so he's like pretty legitimate. And I know they're getting like kind of like a lot of they're getting killed in all of their comment sections on everything, and I'm not so mad that like hey we're that they're not always reviewing like the newest stuff. Like it's fine, but what do you compare?
I think one of the criticism was like you know they were reviewing old games like games that came out like 5 6 years ago. Just like Say what,
which is fine, but like
yeah, yeah,
what?
and I mean, yeah, and I think recently, there hasn't been like a lot of new games coming out, and so I get it.
Yeah,
I mean,
because I
look
know
at us. We're reviewing. We're like literally, yeah, we're doing the same. We're kind of doing the same thing and reviewing these old movies. I mean, to us, it doesn't seem like it's been very long. But Fight Club, that movie's like 20 years old.
God, I know, right? I feel like I just watched it like 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, yeah. So it's like we're not ones to talk, but it's like.
But the thing is, like, because here's my take on it. Because when it comes to movies or games, like, I don't care like how old it is, like, because there's certain things like, okay, if I'm doing like Super Mario Brothers, like a lot of people have talked about Super Mario Brothers, but what are you doing that is like different? Like, so what I did is when we did like kind of doing the Let's Play of Super Mario Brothers 3. I didn't do like the North American version. I did the Japanese version, which actually has a lot of differences. It's much harder, as you could tell in the stream. I kind of struggled a little bit with it. Um, and so there was that. There is, and same thing with the movies. When it comes to like things like we did like Training Day or Shutter Island, we did stuff that like no one else was talking about with that movie, and those movies have been out for years now. And we came up with different theories, new thoughts that I think that can, and we're coming at it from different perspectives. When the theme for next month, I think we're gonna be talking about movies that I don't think that everyone talks about either. And that's the other thing too, is like I also want to, like, when it comes to games or movies, I want to highlight stuff that maybe not everyone's talking about, or maybe have been forgotten or not thought about, and that way like they get highlighted, and it's like, hey, you know what, maybe I want to watch that. That sounds, or maybe I want to play that game. That sounds awesome. So I'm not knocking them for doing old stuff, but
Right.
you got to bring yourself into it. You had to bring something different. Don't.
Right. And yeah, and I guess in terms of like the comments, that were directed toward this woman, and like it was more about like her looks. Okay, that's fine. Like, yeah, like it's kind of a low blow, particularly for women to go and just start dumping on like their looks or whatever.
Well, she dumped on me, so that's why I called her. She looks like a pixie fucked a troll.
Oh, you had an interaction with her.
No, I didn't. But essentially, if you're calling out all the fans, like, she's calling out pretty much all white male gamers. I guarantee that's who she was
right.
putting her ire at. And yeah, I was not in the chat or anything like that, but
right.
essentially that's who she's coming out. You look at her Twitter and all that stuff, and it's pretty much all the super left, far left, feminazi talking points. So you know what,
yeah.
she deserves kind of the
Yeah,
criticism.
I mean, yeah, because I don't know, but men are criticized for their looks too. I mean, you know, particularly, if you're of a particular demographic and you sport facial hair, you're often called, not flattering thing.
Yeah.
Usually, some combination of, you know, uh, beard and neck, along with some sort of disparagement of how that you can't get laid of some kind.
Yeah.
But it's like but so like you're like making you're insulting someone based on their appearance. So it's like where I can understand, like, yeah, it's kind of a low blow, but you're also a public figure, and you're putting yourself out there, so you have, I think in that instance it's kind of within bounds, because her big thing was like, oh, like, because I don't look like Olivia Munn, or like this, I forget what the other previous host name was, but because I don't look like them, it's like that means I'm not worthy of respect or whatever. It's like, that's not.
she's projecting. What?
Yeah, she's projecting. She's projecting ultimately. But if you want to turn that around, like you're probably also hired because of your look, because of your traditionally female aesthetic.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is like for me, I don't really give a shit like what she looks like. It's like at this point, like I mean, I hadn't like been, I didn't even know that it came back. It came into my purview because of this. But it's like all I care about is like, do you like games? Do you have a lot of knowledge about them? Are you bringing something different? It's like, oh hey, you're talking about like this game. Oh, that looks, I've never seen that game before. That sounds interesting, or maybe it's something I should look into. Like I don't really care if like you're some like Greek Adonis or some like supermodel. It's, I don't care. I mean, I'm pretty. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. I'm not saying it, I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. Trust me. The next group of people I'm going to lay into, they are what some people consider very attractive. But the fact is, like, the reason, like, I'm not gonna come at like somebody like personally, like as far as like how they look or whatever. But when you come out like this, it's kind of deserved. Like, yeah, you're not coming out at me specifically, but you're coming at people that are like me.
Well,
So
right. I
it
mean,
is
it's
a
just
personal attack.
it's the whole idea of like switch the races. Like if she was if she came out like against like black people and say like, oh, you black people with your big lips and your you love a chicken and watermelon and all that, and your addiction to menthol cigarettes and
Yeah.
you know and malt liquor, like you guys need to stop. Like she she came out and said disparaging things about blacks or Latinos or Asians. Like it would, I mean, maybe not Asians because as far as those ideologues are concerned, we're white adjacent.
But yeah, I mean, like, listen, I wasn't crying in my sleep, or in like a pile of tears. It's not like I was hurt in any way. But it's like, okay, if you're gonna come at people like me, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna call you. You look like a pixie who fucked a troll. You look terrible, like, and you're a terrible person.
Right. Or yeah, or like then you can't be mad if people decide not to watch your show anymore.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't know it existed, but like,
Right.
it's like, oh, I probably would have come back to it at some point, because like I said, some
Right,
of the
because
people
again, it would have come back. You would have caught wind of it. Out there like on Twitter or whatever. It's like, hey, G4's back. It's like, oh, really? And you would have probably checked it out, and
I would have ventured into
if
it
the quality, yeah, and if and I'm sure if the quality, was there, then you'd be a pretty regular consumer of their content.
Yeah, because I watch several. There's several gaming channels that I enjoy on YouTube, and it's just like, man, like, they do it really well. They do a lot of cool stuff. Like I said, the completionist with Gerard, who was on that panel, he does a lot of good work. I watch the Sin Massacre channel, um, and then like PlayStation Access, which those guys put out some really great content too. It's just I'm telling you, the Brits like do a pretty good job with like some of the gaming channels, like Outside Extra and PlayStation Access. They do a really good job with their gaming content. So it can be done. It's just, and I kind of the G4 is getting massacred, and their Reddit pages, their comment sections. They're getting blasted on Twitter. It's great, and it's when you have someone that comes at you like that, it's like, and we've seen the collapse. Like it happened with the chick that was playing Faye Valentine and the Cowboy Bebop live action, and that essentially is like,
right. And again, it wasn't. Yeah, again, similarly to this G4 instance, again, it was her, projecting onto something. It was just basically a straw man argument because no one was saying that she was ugly or that she didn't fill out the costume well. It's like that. It's just the criticism of the costumes. Like that costume is shit. You know, but again, and then again, similar to the girl from G4, she projected and made it about herself. It's like, oh, you guys are saying that I'm ugly. It's like, no. You know, but then and then like again, the at least from what I remember, I believe like there was I think that it was like the one comment about her looks that literally set it off. You know, but I think up until then, it was mostly the comments were mostly kind of critical of the games that they were doing because again like they were doing old games.
So it's because I like I said I haven't watched any of the videos, but I guarantee what it is that they weren't bringing anything that other YouTubers or Twitch streamers hadn't already talked about.
Right, or we're doing better.
Yeah, exactly. For pennies on the dollar, better. And it's not. It doesn't take a team of 20 to do the fucking review.
Right. Yeah. Like the laundry list of writers, or whatever she rattled off to like, oh, like this person works here, that person works like all women's like. Okay. That doesn't mean make it better. Just as like if it was all men, that wouldn't make it inherently better either.
Yeah, and you have that one beta male that was like obviously scared of COVID, so he's off on like he's Skyping in on a TV screen.
Yeah, I think that was right. The whole huge arm like clap.
Yeah, I was like,
but I think he was one of the original hosts of that show.
He's gone. That guy's gone completely nuts.
Well, because he's older too, and so
Yeah, if you look at his Twitter, like he is pretty much since like he hopes that all his family members that are Republican he would die.
What
the fuck, dude?
Yeah, people. Yeah, I don't know, like what.
Lost your mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, kind of like pointing out the hypocrisy, but if Republicans said like, oh, I hope all the if let's say Republicans were in power, or there was more our society was a little bit more conservative, and someone and in this alternate universe, in this in another like kind of this type of gaming show, and one of the hosts said like, oh yeah, I hope all liberal or Democrat fans like or my family members die. It's just, they wouldn't stand for it.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, because to be honest, I really don't give a shit about like when it comes to this stuff. I want to enjoy games, or I want to enjoy.
Right. Well, like something like what's completely apolitical.
Yeah, and so like to be honest, I really don't care. Like, so a few of like the movie stuff that the movie channels or podcasts I listen to, it's like, yeah, I know that they're, if not left leaning, there some are more like actually pretty left wing. Like some of the MST3K guys, I know that they're pretty left wing, and they're on Twitter, they're pretty adamant about it. But at the same time, you know what? They make me laugh my ass off, so I don't care. It's like it's not in their movie in the way that they are reviewing the films, or like or in the case of the MST3K and how they're like riffing on the films, like it's funny. Or even if like a lot of times like when it comes to the they'll mention a few things kind of like how we do, like where we see like somewhat of a more conservative side of like a conservative talking point that the movie I don't think that they mentioned, like when we did Knocked Up, it's like that movie is super conservative, whether the makers realize that or not.
Exactly, yeah. Dude, I was like so surprised at how conservative that movie was, where it's like they kind of harkened back to like a bygone era where where the guy whether he initially he doesn't execute it perfectly, but he does take responsibility, and they do try and cobble together a relationship, these two people who had a one night stand, and like what is it, like the mom who was of the woman, Katherine Heigl's character, was like saying like, oh yeah, just have an abortion and then like just have a baby when you like with your actual like when you have a real baby. Yeah, have a real baby. It's like, what?
No one was cheering at that moment. Nobody in the audience was cheering.
Yeah, no one was like, woo, yes. shout your abortion. No, that didn't happen.
But that's the thing. It's like we talk about that stuff, and so yeah, we have a certain political leaning, and we sometimes we share that. We're not hiding it, and the same thing. I'm not asking them to hide it. Like they definitely have that thing, but at the same time, they're putting out good stuff. They're not like it's not just like Donald Trump sucks.
Right. I mean,
constant.
yeah, because what is it? For the 4 years that Trump was in office, like you had that song, "Fuck Donald Trump," and I'll admit when I went out, when I went out to the club, I still danced to it, even though I voted for him.
It's not a bad song.
It's kind of catchy, but then also again like kind of the hypocrisy where it's like now it's like you have stadiums full of people chanting, fuck Joe Biden. All of a sudden they have like the vapors. It's like, oh, how dare you disrespect the president like that? It's like, motherfucker, for 4 years you were telling, you had everyone and their mother saying, fuck, Donald Trump. Fucking Robert De Niro during the Tony Awards went up there and like was like, yeah, all I have to say is fuck Trump. And it's like, and got like fucking standing ovation for that.
Yeah.
And then they don't like the whole like Let's Go Brandon thing.
Did you hear that rapper who did the Let's Go Brandon song that was like it was like number one on like Twitter for a long time, for like quite a while before.
Well, I've heard. There's multiple. There's actually multiple versions done by different artists.
I forget the guy's name. But yeah, he like his song. His is definitely like heads and above the best one. Mm-hmm. And then like YouTube took it down. I don't know if it's back up or not, but I'm
right. Sure, yeah, and then like on like iTunes and like Amazon, I think too. They're like it was like number one. It beat like I think it was by Bryson Gray, and it beat Adele.
I know.
It beat Adele. But really quickly, let me get this one point out though really fast. But during the Trump years, they didn't even have a colloquial term for fuck Trump. They just said fuck Trump, as opposed to like now. And it's so weird because all the memes that go against like the left or like establishment, it's always ones that they create themselves.
Yeah.
It's like the whole like even fake news. CNN came up with fake news, and then Trump just used it against them.
Yep.
And like even like this Let's Go Brandon thing, it's like that came from the reporter, the interviewer, kind of covering for like the entire like raceway, like chanting "fuck Joe Biden," and it's like, oh yeah, listen, chant for you, let's go Brandon. It's just like,
God, I feel, to be honest, I feel so bad for that reporter Kelly Stavas, who. She's actually really good. She knows her stuff. She's not just some some chicken that some diversity hire. She actually knows what she's talking about.
But
I feel bad for Brandon Brown, who has been just he has pretty much, because the way that NASCAR is now, like they pretty much like have fucked him over too because of that.
There's like he has no unless he like unless he takes the Kool-Aid, I don't foresee a future for Brandon Brown, which is sad for him. But let me just wrap it up. Like the left, they didn't even have a colloquial phrase to cover for fuck Trump. All they did is say fuck Trump, and so it's like now people are like again, the media establishment, they they get the vapors because like, oh, how dare this father use his child to prank call the president, disrespect him to his face. It's like, but it wasn't as though he was vulgar. He didn't say fuck Joe Biden like to his face. Just like and then it's like super and like how stupid is again like how out of touch is the president that he didn't know he didn't recognize that phrase. I'm sure I know his wife did. You could see like on Jill Biden's face, like as soon as like, oh God, you saw it in her face. But it's like, how could you not have, like his staff, how could they not have let their boss know? It's like, hey, there's this phrase going around, that kind of came up to try and cover for, people chanting, to, go fornicate with yourself.
Yeah. It's either it's one of two things. He's either like much cooler than we give him credit for. He's just like, yeah, let's go, Brandon. Like, just let it
yeah. Like the duck rolling, letting the water roll off its back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those. I think it's the latter.
Or more likely is that he is fucking super brains and doesn't realize what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I mean, what is it? It just came out. Recently that Joe Biden, in his first year as president, spent a quarter of his time on vacation. So that's like 3 months.
Donald Trump at the golf course, like.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, like 3 months. He spent like.
Here's the thing: like when he was on the golf course, guess what? He was with people that he is trying to make deals with, to actually,
exactly.
get his, to fulfill his promises and put his agenda forth. Joe Biden has done none of that because he's watching Matlock and taking nap time because his, or going on, having that, where
playing with his dog at the beach.
Radical, like where he won't take questions from the press.
Yeah.
It's just. But anyways,
so, that was like that was pretty much the sum of my point. These.
But hey, you know what? You insult your fans. It's all good. It's like if you. I think that's a solid business model. Hey, the people that are watching your show, you're terrible.
Just do the Gabo method. It's like, all the kids in Springfield are dumb SOBs.
Yeah. Dude, I totally forgot about that. It's Gabo.
It's Gabo. It's Gabo. It's Gabo.
It's Gabo. Oh. This is why we're friends.
This is why we're friends.
That actually would have gone completely past me until it's so Gabo.
It's so I know this. I mean, this is how fast my brain works now. Just like we were talking about it, and then it's like we're like and when you said just insult your your viewers, your fans, it's like this is just like Gabo. Yeah, that I mean, it helped that because Bart was trying to take him down, but it's like all the kids in Springfield dumb SOBs.
He was Bart was like Project Veritas.
Yes.
It's not that Gabo was taken out of context. He was just highlighted for what he was as a dick.
Exactly. Yeah, it's it's like the whole it's like even with the Fauci hot mic moment calling that senator a moron and blaspheming our Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Of course.
Of course.
But yeah, and then so that's the G4 incident, and they've doubled down, of course. They're Reddit posts.
Of course, they can't. Yeah, of course, they can't take some time to reflect and be like, "Hey, maybe we're the assholes." Like, no, it's just again, kind of like this, Principal Skinner.
Principal Skinner's like, no,
It's like, could I be out of touch? It's like, no, it's the children who are wrong.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. Wow, you're really getting your Simpsons references.
This is
money to worth.
Are so relevant. It's just.
I know, seriously.
They're so freaking.
Before they got hijacked.
Yeah, there was good 12 to 13 seasons where it was just gold.
Right. Yeah, and particularly the early years, within I think season 4 to 6 was their butter seasons. They're putting out I think in season 4 through 6 is when they that's where all of the really good memeable Simpsons references are from.
Yeah, I would agree. But in other gaming news, you have a lot of Twitch streamers who, and these are the top of the top Twitch streamers who have, I would say have gotten in hot water, but in reality it was more of a slap on the wrist. because I don't think anything's gonna happen to them. Specifically, some of the more uh, female variety Twitch streamers like
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Pokimane
I mean, yeah.
and
I heard the story too, where basically, Pokimane, who's like one of the biggest female streamers on Twitch. Kind of the new thing to do is kind of just basically watch like full episodes of TV shows. Like I think one of the big ones is MasterChef.
yeah.
But
And I like
but specifically, but specifically in Pokemon's situation, she like without doing like the kind of like the pausing and like offering commentary to kind of to make it like to make it transformative. Yeah, there was none of that. She just watched. I think it was the Airbender show, not the one with like the original one. Yeah, Avatar. She watched like full uncut, didn't even like stop to like make commentary on it, and she got a strike, but it was but again, like Robert was saying, it was more of a slap on the wrist, and it happened on a Friday, and and she does, and well, from what I hear, because I'm not much of a Pokemon fan. We're not really on Twitch, but uh, but well, just because like there's also because I watched a lot of the courting videos, and like some of the stuff that's been coming out about her, she sounds like a real cunt.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Okay. You watch the same stuff that I did too.
Yeah, we're best friends. Of course, we watch the same shit.
I will say this. It's weird because I had heard about this, and then I was like, oh, and then obviously like he was talking about it. It's like so I kind of like read up more about what was going on, and then it's weird because outside of like just the topic, I just said like, hey, like this seems like we don't really have a ton of news, so like here's a fun topic that we can talk about. But the funny thing is, like without us like coordinating at all, we're watching the same shit.
Yeah. I mean, we're best friends, so of course, it'll eventually happen. We'll we have similar tastes.
We have that Vulcan mind meld, dude.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, it happened on a Friday, and she doesn't typically stream over the weekend, so like, and it was like a 2-day ban, so it's like, she's got banned from 2 days of streaming, which she doesn't even stream anyways, and so she was able to start back up again on the following Monday.
Oh.
So it's like so like Robert was saying, it was a slap on the wrist because it didn't even affect her.
And then she went on a whole like master class of just like wizardry, and like turning it around and how like
right, yeah, like I'm a victim, and you don't understand what it's like to be a woman streamer, and
oh god, I mean,
it's like like the misogyny, you wouldn't even believe it. It's just like
God forbid, Andy. God forbid if we like threw in like a couple clips from like the movies that we're reviewing, and actually like saying something about them, where we would get struck down like quick.
Right. No.
Like,
yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's why we don't like play clips of kind of like the news things that we see. We don't even like. I mean, maybe we should at least include the links in the description. But like, yeah, like there's like we don't even like post links to like the story because like I think it's big enough like where people have like heard of it, and we're just offering commentary. We're not reporting. We're like we're doing what all of the talking heads on like MSNBC, CNN, even Fox do. There's news, and then we just give our 2 cents.
Yeah, well, I mean, God, you said a lot there about like how the news is not news anymore. Like as far as like legacy media, it's not news anymore. It's just commentary and opinions. Right. It's not actually like saying anything. It just
right. It's like, I mean, I think I think what our distinction is that we're more free and we can be a little bit more colorful with our language, and or if you want to say something fucked up and like say and say like Pokemon's got a stinky cunt. Allegedly. Allegedly.
Yeah.
But
Well, there was that other Twitch streamer who he actually got into more trouble than she did because he.
Well, yeah, because he called her, because he deigned to call her out. But from what I hear, also, I just saw the video just before we started streaming, but he was kind of asking for it, like literally, where he was like kind of in a mocking way. He's like, "Oh yeah, please, yeah, I dare you to block me, or I dare you to strike me, or whatever." And someone who has the ear of someone at Twitch like obliged him, and that's how he got. Yeah, because at first I think they were just gonna kind of they weren't gonna permaban him. They were just gonna kind of give him a slap on the wrist, keep him from streaming for a couple of days, and then that was gonna be the end of it. But he kind of poked the bear a bit, and he's like, yeah, go ahead, I dare you to permaban me, and he got what he asked for.
Yeah, but no, I think because I've been thinking about doing more of even if it's just me doing more, kind of like what we've been doing with the movie reviews, but diving a little bit deeper and kind of cutting in some of the audio, because I know there's quite a few podcasts that do that anyways. It's well, okay, I can just, and obviously it's all audio, so it's not a video, but I mean, God forbid if we even threw in a 30-second clip of any movie, unless it's public domain, I mean, we're fucked.
Yeah. What is it? The only time we get we get a copyright claim, and the only time you'll probably see ads on our video is around Christmas time, because I use pretty well-known Christmas songs for the intro and the outro for those videos. Because I use Feliz Navidad, and that always gets claimed. And then it was weird because one episode I used Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas, but it didn't get claimed.
I feel like that song has become public domain because it's played so freaking often.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it's so crazy because I think kind of like Jon Favreau, he wasn't going out to make a Christmas classic when he made Elf, but it's kind of become that.
Oh God, yeah.
And I think Mariah Carey didn't expect too much from her Christmas album, but she literally made a Christmas classic.
I mean, that's really become the de facto Christmas song that everyone goes to. I mean, it used to be something I'm Bing Crosby with White Christmas,
or I'll Be Coming Home for Christmas, or Jingle Bell Rock. But I think Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas displays Jingle Bell Rock.
Yeah, she sold the show.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's why I know initially we are set up to show clips and stuff like that, but now with everyone just being kind of strike happy and if you play 1 second of something from the news or whatever, it's just immediately it's gonna get struck or claimed. Or
that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because the amount of work that we I mean, I'm not saying that I put so much work into this, but the amount of work we put in, it could be completely usurped from us. And
I guarantee we've put more work than Pokimane did into her freaking MasterChef episodes on Twitch.
Yeah, fair enough. But early on,
I write I have pages of notes every week of our freaking movies. It's come on.
Yeah, I mean, early on, for the opener for even the main podcast, because it's called the Circle of Jerks podcast. I use You're a Jerk by I forget who but it's a catchy rap song. And I didn't even use the actual song. I found an instrumental of it.
Yeah.
And and then I just put kind of the beat of it, and then immediately Warner, we got a Warner Music strike on it, and now Warner Music, every time those early videos are played, Warner Music gets that money. Like we don't see a single penny of it, even though we put like even in yeah, especially in like those early days, like where we're real. I put in a lot of time and effort to edit those videos. Like I don't like see a single cent from my work. It's just like how is that even like? I mean, I understand like if they get a cut, and I think if YouTube was interested at all in maintaining its user base, which actually made YouTube what it is, they would have done like a split partnership thing where it's like, you know, yes, the copyright holders, like the music companies or whatever, they can get a piece of the money, but not like the entire. They don't get to take over, like they don't get to take over the entire. Um, they don't get the full credit of like actually making the video and shooting the video and editing the video and posting the video.
Exactly.
But it's not because fucking because with like again with like kind of the democratization of the internet, it's just and like with like Napster and LimeWire and things like that, like changing the entire way music is disseminated. Like of course they're not gonna that they're not gonna do that. Of course they're not gonna look out for their creators, the ones that like help build YouTube to what it is or what it was.
Hey, listen, I'm willing. Hey, if we use your music, like, and but like, let's say it's only like 1% of like our entire episode. I'm willing to give you like 1% of our profits of what like it's like. I'm willing to pay for that. It's like,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
your music just fits our thing. I'll pay you a percentage, sure, but don't take all of my all the effort that we put into it. Like with you with like editing and like all like the hours and like the research that we put into like if we're doing like a movie review or whatever. It's like, but you don't get all of it. I mean, but then again, that would be YouTube having to use some sort of brain power and kind of figuring all that out. But whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in terms of innovation, like YouTube is a dinosaur. Um, and the last innovation that they had was the super chat, and yeah, we're not big enough to where you don't even draw an audience big enough where they actually want to pay us for our opinions, but I think like if we ever got to that point, like it'd be really great if that we can get super chats. Of course, YouTube takes a big 30% bite out of the super chats, but it's like again, like that's kind of I'm willing to pay that because we're on their site, we're using their resources.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that. But I don't know that it's one of those
Yeah,
things like maybe moving to another platform might work. Like I said, yeah, we obviously we do this show more often now, but it's I think we put in a lot of effort. Obviously we have to with the movie reviews, we have to watch the movie. We come up with our notes. We come up with, or I mean, you kind of keep it in your head, but like I have stuff like where I have to write shit down because I'll forget.
Yeah, I'm just one of those stubborn people. It's like, yeah, I'll remember, but then I'll forget it.
Like a lot, with news topics, we're talking throughout the week, like, hey, what should we talk about? Like, and we'll kind of have like our own chat, like, so we're doing the work, beforehand. And some episodes are better than others, or and so it's just we do a lot of good work. It's frustrating. YouTube is kind of frustrating. It's like I want to do so well on this, but it's like I'm wondering if maybe another platform might be better at some point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. I've been thinking about it too, and I mean, early on when like VidMe was a thing, we were actually doing pretty well on that until VidMe, stabbed, all of the kind of refugees of YouTube, like the ones that did political content.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, they stabbed them in the back, and so it's like, oh yeah, we're not gonna do any more like political talk. It's just gonna be, it's like, then what the fuck are we doing here? Or it's like you think people who make like apolitical like content, like your like your cooking channels or your exercise channels or your hobby channels. You think they're gonna come over here,
Yeah,
from
exactly.
YouTube when like they've already established their presence and like they're completely safe. It's like no, like the people that came over to VidMe was the literally political refugees. It's like all the people on the right who or people who with an independent streak and had dissenting views. Um, but yeah, like that's I mean, yes, we should foster competition as well, and establish presences on other websites. But it's and maybe we can, maybe we can start, like because I know I still there's such a backlog of Nocturnal Transmissions episodes, but maybe we can keep all of like the movie reviews on YouTube, but then move like the news stuff or the political stuff and move those clips over onto an alternative site, and and try to build an audience over there.
Yeah, I mean that's something we could think about.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been kind of watching the different sites and just kind of keeping my ear to the ground, because we're in a society where like you constantly have to wait for the other shoe to drop, and sometimes the best thing to do is just not be there when it does, and so
Yeah.
you just
Well, I was kind of thinking, like, in some cases, like with when sharing some of our clips and stuff like that, I was because Twitter has become so weird. Because I've really gotten to the point, like on Twitter, like I really only talk about three things. I talk about gaming, I talk about movies, and I talk about sports. That's it. Uh, just because Twitter has just gotten so freaking weird, and but like as far as like I do want to share some of like more of the news, political content, but I'm not going to do that on Twitter, like 'cause it's just that it there's just no way.
yeah,
So like
Twitter's
something
a
like
cesspool.
like something like Gab or Parlor, that's back now, like that might be like a better spot, like as far as like growing our content on that, sharing that content there, because I think it would be something that people are more interested or at least able to view over over on that, and it's not going to get flagged as like this is not good content, like this is misinformation.
Yeah, fact check false.
Yeah.
For it's like why for reasons.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just stuff that I'm kind of been thinking about.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm same as you. I've been thinking about it too. I've been because I have more time on my hands. I've been kind of keeping an eye on like the different alternative sites and again just keeping my ear to the ground for news. I know the big thing was that Rumble acquired Locals, Dave Rubin's thing, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, they're now Rumble's now even offering live streaming. Although I did look into it, and it's not like YouTube where it's like anyone who just like verifies their account can start streaming, but like you actually kind of have to pay for that privilege. Which in looking at some of the prices, it may not be that bad. Um,
Might not be
uh,
bad.
per month, and maybe that's something that we should discuss. I mean, not right now, but
Yeah.
at a future date.
But anyways, like I said, I listen. I'm not bemoaning, someone like Pokimane or like some of these other like Twitch streamers who have millions of followers. Like, you know what? Good on them, because I know that you have to do some sort of work, to acquire that type of following. Great,
Right.
good,
Yeah.
good on them. They've done something. They've made something of their life through that, and I'm all for it. But what pisses me off is that because they've gotten to that point, it's like, oh, it's so hard to make content. It's like it's not. It's really not. I mean, there's time to be honest. Like, yeah, there's times where I'm freaking tired, and doing sometimes. on Tuesday, like I'm really tired. I don't necessarily want to stream, but you know what? Like I do it anyways because you're putting in a lot of effort, and it's like I'm not, yeah, and I enjoy doing this stuff, and I never, the next day sometimes I'm a little tired too, but it's uh, people who watch us. It's like I owe it. I owe it to the people that do watch us, and uh, to the people who might potentially watch us. Like I owe it to them, to not phone it in and then not give a shitty review, or to just like, hey, guess what? We're just gonna stream an episode of whatever. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, if that's the case, like I can do that like by myself. I don't need to stream that. Like it's just stupid. And the fact that like, listen, if like you're tired for a day, like just take the fucking day off. Like, or watch something that, or at least like if you're gonna
Or yeah, or you could even steal someone's idea. I don't care. Like if like the whole thing of like reviewing like you know music was a thing until it stopped being a thing, and then reacting to like memes or reacting to viral videos. That was a thing until it stopped being a thing. But it's like you know you don't even necessarily have to be original. It's just that as long as you're doing you're adding your own little thing and being entertaining. That's really all that's required. You know.
Yeah, I mean, hell, I mean, we did like, what was it? There was the well, I think the new season is coming out soon, but we did a whole like thing on like, when we did, we were actually doing shows like, we did Tiger King, we did Alice in Borderland, Squid Game, the Jordan documentary, like we didn't just stream it. Obviously, we talked about it.
Yeah.
We brought our own thing to it. It's really not hard. Like, I mean, trust me, there is so much content out there. There are so many there's trust me, there's too many games. Like I have a backlog up my ass as far as gaming goes. I'm never gonna not gonna have a game to play. Same thing with movies. My movie backlog is insane. um and I try to just, I've been trying to maybe mainly focus on our stuff, like for like what we're doing, like per month, just so I can make sure that I'm putting in a lot of effort there.
Hmm.
But there's trust me, there's a lot of movies I want to watch. I have a list that's easily 3 pages right now. And so it's not, there's not a lack of content out there. Even if, like, no matter what you're doing, there's not a lack of content out there. There's almost too much. Like it's a
Yeah.
never ending thing.
Yeah, and then like the real challenge is just being different enough to where you stand out.
Exactly.
You know?
I work hard to
Yeah,
try to
because
like,
how many cooking channels are there, or how many hobby channels are there? How many gaming channels are there? It's like, can you distinguish yourself though?
exactly. Um, so it's not hard. Just
Just takes a
uh,
little bit, just a little bit, just takes a little bit extra.
well, and I think what happens like with a lot of these people that like get to, however many 100 million followers or whatever, that I think what they struggle with is like they kind of are like, right. I was like, I don't really need to try as hard anymore, and they
Well, yeah,
kind of
because
lose.
like because initially, yeah, you might do it for the enjoyment of it, and then you start making a little bit of money off of it, and then you get sponsorships, and then you're able to mix, then you start to pull more bigger and bigger deals, and so it becomes more about the money.
I mean,
But
to me, like if the day ever comes where we have some sort of sponsorship or whatever, that to me is like, I look at that as like, no, now I have to push even harder because
yeah, now
you know
someone's paying me to do this thing.
yeah,
Um,
and I want to make sure like I want to put that money towards like, hey, let's get better equipment. Let's do more things. Let's really push the envelope. Let's really go for it. And it frees us up. Having extra money frees us up to do more stuff.
Yeah, frees us up and it actually gives us the opportunity to provide. Even bring someone on board.
Exactly.
Hire someone. I always wanted my own bitch.
That's all I had to say. That's the stuff that's been kind of going on in the gaming world. It's just stupid stuff. Nothing really super important. Obviously, to be honest, we talked about it a lot longer than I expected to.
Yeah, I mean, again, I knew this was, even though you said that, oh yeah, we're just gonna touch on it briefly. It's like I know this is a conversation. This is a topic that'll lend itself to going, spreading out and branching off into other subjects and kind of parallel topics.
Yeah.
So I knew that going in. That's why I dispense with like the whole, oh, how was your week? It's like, bitch, let's get right into it.
The week's been great, actually, for me. But no, it's just it's something that like obviously like I care about because I'm a gamer, and I just want to enjoy gaming and like talking about games, and thankfully like the podcasts I listen to and the shows I do watch, there's none of this extra dumb bullshit.
Yeah, and I'm more of a culture guy, and even though gaming is not my thing, it's become part of the culture, and it's being it's being subverted with this leftist ideology. And
You know what I've heard it best like in it comes to like movies and games too. Like a lot of like the journalists in those arenas, a lot of them want to be political journalists, but they're stuck in gaming or movies. And it's like, and that's why you have a lot of these stupid political articles, concerning movies or games. I'm like, who gives a shit? It's like, I don't. No, nobody does. It's like, who cares?
Right? Yeah. So it might necessarily that the ideology isn't being injected by the workers per se, but it could be injected by the people who write about it, who again, who are trying to make who don't understand like, it's like, yeah, you want to do this thing, you want to do like political reporting, but the only job you can get out of college is at this website that covers games. And so like what do you it's like, oh, what do you do? You start injecting politics into gaming, like the colonialization of like such and such game, or the soft racism of this game, or the sexism within gaming in general, and just like the male gaze, and just like, oh my god. So maybe it's not necessarily like, yeah, I'll fully grant, like it might necessarily be like the employees themselves, but it could be just the people who write about games.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and unfortunately, like every aspect of life now has been infiltrated by politics in some form or fashion. It's infuriating. And unfortunately, it's mostly leftist politics. It's not necessarily always, conservative stuff. But even sometimes with like, there are times where even like conservative politics sometimes like sneak in. It's like I don't care. I don't care. I just want to enjoy the thing. I don't care.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like the whole thing about, oh, wear a mask, get your shot, for grandma, or think of think of somebody else. I just want to scream at some people sometimes, like, stop trying to make me care.
Yeah, it's like
it's not my place.
Tide cares. It's like no, you don't. just sell me the fucking detergent that I need.
Yeah, or Coca-Cola cares. Like, no, you don't. Just sell me your sugar water and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna drink your fucking product. Just shut up.
Yeah, just like, stop trying to make me care about stuff. All right, I saw this Christian YouTuber that I was talking about. He referenced some dude who went and did an interview on MSNBC, and he's a total, and this guy is like a total hack. He went on Joe Scarborough's like show, and like Joe Scarborough's like kind of like denigrating Christians. Like, oh, why are Christians so stupid? Why don't they just get the vax and da da da? Why can't they mask up? And and this guy he added to the gospel, which is offensive to me, because he used the whole like, oh, love, love others as you would, like, it's not even that late. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
But it's just like, how does that make sense? Like, if I'm to love my neighbor as myself, why would I then go against my own love by doing something I would never do? In this case, the vaccine. I was like, how is me going against how I would love myself loving my neighbor?
It's like, well, here's the thing. Is like, here's the other thing about like, being, a believer and all that stuff. It's like, we also have to deal with truth, and if we are, part of a lie, why would I want to like, share a lie that everyone else, even if everyone else believes in it, it's like, I'm not gonna tell a lie. It's I'm not even telling people like, don't get the, and let's be honest, it's not a vaccine. It is a flu shot in the broad sense.
It's
Because
it's DNA treatment.
and it's like, but I'm not gonna lie about it. It's like, it's not an immunization. It's not all this
Right.
other
At the
stuff.
very least, it's a therapeutic, because that's how they shifted over. It's like, oh yeah, like you can still get it, but you just won't be hospitalized. The symptoms will be mild. It's like, and that's a therapy.
And but here's the other thing. It's like, what we haven't done? We haven't lied. The other side, all the media, the medical experts like Dr. Fauci, that guy they have lied. The government, they have lied from day one, and like they have either flip flopped, like a dead fish, or like a head of water.
They've taken every position.
They've taken every position, or they have outright lied, and despite
like with
actual factual evidence, the
right.
truth.
I mean, even recently with like the whole mask things, and how like even like fucking baby killer Dr. Wen came out and said like, oh yeah, cloth mask. That's all, because that's all I remember. She used to be the head of Planned Parenthood.
Yep.
So she's she's a literal baby killer. But she came out and said like, oh yeah, like cloth masks, they're pretty much decoration. And so like, yeah, if you really want to protect yourself now, you have to use the N95 or the N97 or whatever.
Hey, listen, lady, go fuck yourself.
But here's the little thing that that they're not admitting. It's like, so like this entire time, even if you were wearing like the regular kind of mask or the cloth mask, you were being exposed then. Like you were just as exposed as if you weren't wearing a mask. So and yet you didn't die. You did in certain cases maybe you didn't get the Rona. So like, why are they now saying that you have to wear this other more expensive, by the way, mask? It's like, what exactly about the virus has changed other than that it's more transmissible? Did the virus get smaller or smaller than like it is now? Because even with the cloth mask or like the disposable surgical mask, the virus is still small enough to get through the interstitial fibers of that mask. So the virus is still going through you.
Yeah. It's just, it's so infuriating. I the way that the media and the medical experts and the government, the way that they talk, it's like so infuriating. Because the thing, why it's so infuriating is because people still feel that they are, oh, they're the trusted institution. Why would they lie to us? And it's like they these people have been lying to you for a long ass time. I mean, it's not like some like recent thing that's been happening. It's been happening for a long time.
It's been forever. I was just reminded just before it came on. I saw this meme or this kind of a meme from Gina Carano, and she said like she put, imagine a friend of yours came to you and say, hey, I need to borrow your car for 2 weeks, and you let him borrow your car for 2 weeks, but 2 years go by and they haven't brought your car back, and they haven't defined the terms of when they're going to bring the car back.
this is this brings me back to another Simpsons episode, like Homer versus New York City.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Barney like ends up like stealing his car.
Yeah. All right, because he got pulled to DD.
Yeah.
Out of all people, Barney was the one who was tasked with being the designated driver, and he kind of loses his mind, and he's like oh, and like Homer drunkenly's like, oh, he's like, yeah, Barney, over here. Like just leave the car underneath the welcome mat.
The car under the door.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like Barney's like kind of has like that nervous tick. He's like, yeah, the door, yeah. And then he ends up going on a bender and like leaving the car in New York. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened to us. The government said like, yeah, let me borrow your car for 2 weeks. And then 2 years later, it's like, hey man, when are you gonna come back? When do I get my car back? It's like, hey, it's like, don't worry about it.
Well, I think that leads us into like our next topic is like,
it sure does.
I was thinking about like how a lot of things that I remember from not only just like from like my youth, but like just looking into the past, like how
a recent past.
Recent past. Like there were not stuff hasn't just been like wrong, but it's like it feels like it's more been like just a lie. Whether it been through like the education system or society or government or whatever.
Right. But, yeah. I mean, yeah. A lot of conventional wisdom, has kind of been scrutinized, and it's not. Conventional wisdom is not proving to be not very wise.
Yeah. So I don't. What are some of the things that you? Because I posed this question to you earlier in the week. But like, what are some things that you remember from like growing up? That's like this is, you gotta believe in this, or you gotta like focus on this, but it's actually turned out to be complete bullshit.
Well, I won't say what you said, but I have been looking into the secondhand smoke numbers, like the deaths supposedly from secondhand smoke, and I'm finding out that it's so minuscule.
Dude, okay. First of all, I'm glad you brought this up, because don't get me wrong, I'm not a smoker. I grew up around it like a lot. I hated it as a kid, and it's not great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, same with me. My dad smoked. I kind of dabbled in it in my early 20s, but luckily for me, I never got addicted.
But here's the thing that pisses me off, and I talk shit about this all the time. The anti-smoking ads, and especially like Rob Reiner, the meathead, who is railed against this for years. But it's all bullshit. Like, it's like, don't don't smoke because it could go through the vents and it's gonna come and sneak into your house and it's gonna kill your kid. It's
Right.
like,
Like yeah, recently there was a campaign where like there's a person like in an apartment building of all places where it's like yeah, of course you're gonna like probably run into some people who smoke or whatever, but it's like a person out on their balcony having a cigarette and like the smoke kind of like wafts and like winds its way up like to the upper apartment and then through the open window and then in the living room and then into the vent and then going through the the vent system and then out into the baby's room and and then the smoke like slowly falls like over the baby and it's like
God, I just
secondhand smoke kills and
I was like, fuck you. It's like, listen, like I said, I'm not a fan of smoking.
Yeah, we're not advocating for anything.
No, but the thing is, like, that's bullshit already. But
yeah.
then,
But like even like the numbers, it was like so like I was like surprised at like how ridiculously low the death rate for like secondhand smoke was.
I'm not saying that it's zero, but
No, neither am I. Yeah, like statistically though, it's like insignificant.
Statistically, it's zero.
Yeah.
It's just like, and here's the thing: it's like, you know who isn't getting like kind of the same like vitriol? Cigar smokers or pipe smoke. No one's talking about that. It's kind of
it's only cigarettes, but like I can't.
Because with all the marijuana stuff, like no one's talking about like the secondhand marijuana smoke.
Right. Or like the contact high or whatever. It's just like
it's just cigarettes.
Yeah.
And why? I don't understand why cigarettes are like the big.
Yeah, the boogeyman.
The boogeyman. Yeah, it's weird.
But it's weird too because like even now vaping is kind of getting hit with it, and it's so funny because they're like saying like, oh, like do you want information on how to quit vaping? It's like I thought vaping was used to quit smoking. I know a bunch of people who started vaping and then they to get them off of like cigarette smoking, and then they're eventually able to kick the habit. Yeah, they got off of it. They got off of cigarette smoking, and they almost instantaneously got over smoking vapes too.
Yeah, and I'm not going back to like the 40s or 50s where it's like smoke Winston cigarettes. It's actually it's recommended by 9 out of 10 doctors.
It's like pregnant women's like expecting mothers prefer cigarette.
Yeah, I'm not going back to that era, but what I'm saying, it's just like listen, it's you are vilifying one aspect of like the smoking community, but there's still like cigars, there's pipe smokers, there's God, to be honest, I think marijuana is like even worse than all of those.
And even like the smokeless tobacco, no one like it. I mean, there's not as big of a there's not a big demonization of like smokeless tobacco, like dip or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like it's just weird. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's don't listen to this fucking anti tobacco ads because it's all bullshit. But the thing is, I'm not saying hey kids, go out and smoke.
Yeah, go light. Go spark up. Go spark up a cigarette. Yeah, that's not what we're saying.
But it's just like but what they are saying is also bullshit. Mm-hmm. Rob Reiner is full of shit. It's like...
Indeed. What about? Well, yeah, I'll let you.
Well, one of the big things I was thinking of, because I was thinking of several things, but like one in particular that kind of really caught my mind, just today actually, was the fact that people, if you didn't go to college after high school, you're a loser. And not only are you not only are you a loser, but like you'll never amount to anything if you never go to college.
Right.
And
Yeah, like the denigration of like blue collar status. That's
yeah,
another.
well, and here's the thing. The other a lot of like our parents' generation, there was a time where you could not only work but go to college. Like you could pay for your college through
Yeah, through a part-time job.
yeah. And in that time frame, in the last 40, 50, 60 years, the government has really gotten involved with colleges, and most schools now are have some sort of like government something
Oh
attached to
yeah,
them.
they're all subsidized, and like like you can't even go to like a private bank and get like a student loan anymore unless because I mean because I foolishly went back to school and I paid way too much for an education that I could have gotten for free or free on YouTube or at a reduced price by just taking because I was already on that track because I was taking the school that I eventually went to full time and graduated from. I was taking night classes to get like to gain a certificate. Um, because at the time, when I was pursuing photography and I was trying to get jobs, I was getting turned down a lot because like I didn't have the education. I was basically teaching myself how to be a photographer. I took pictures. I constantly like was learning, about lighting, about like how the camera works, and about settings and things like that. I was kind of, and for the vast majority of my time at school, I was bored because like I and felt like very frustrated because I was in classes where that I didn't even I had to take because I was in a major or or I was part of this um, what is it this like this department like I was in the fine arts department because photography was in the fine arts department and so I could
Right,
take
right,
like sculpture and painting even though like I was one of those again I went in there late and so like, I wasn't like this fresh faced like, high school graduate and like I didn't know what I want to do. I knew what I want to do and I wanted to just focus on that. But they still like made me take like sculpture classes and painting classes and they like these like philosophy classes, which actually it did enjoy and it did help me. I think ultimately in the long run to help me, you know, interestingly learning about their philosophy made me kind of help break the spell, uh, you know, of this world. But um, God, where was I going with this?
you probably spent way too much money on it.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I spent way too much money on it, and like I couldn't even go to like a regular bank to like the only like kind of commercial bank that I went to try and go and get a loan for school was like Wells Fargo. But yeah, like if I went like I try to go to my bank, and I go to a smaller bank called Union Bank. It used to be called Union Bank of California, but they just shortened it up to Union Bank. And I went there to try, and I went to like the branch that I've been going to like for years. I said, "Hey, do you guys do like school loans?" They're like, "No, we don't do school loans." And then you have to go through one of these separate like financial institutions. Like some of you might heard of it, like Navient.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I think I think they're somewhat like federally subsidized as well.
Well, there you go. That's
Yeah,
and
and so so I had to go through like that company to get a loan, but even me being like super frugal, I did the math and it was so funny because I was talking to one of the representatives and it's like, yeah, I went down to like the cent to make sure like I didn't like I didn't like borrow too much money. I was like, yeah, I just got what I needed to pay for school and to pay for like materials and things like that and like some travel. Because I was I well the first year I did stay in the dorms, but that was a mistake. But it was still fun. It was still nice to be able to just like walk to school instead of having to drive uh, from the valley down to Marina Del Rey.
right,
Uh,
right.
But yeah, I calculated like the very cent. I was like, yeah, I need I need $30,526.17. And like the representative laughed at me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like I mean, because you went to something more of that's actually not a lot in a lot of ways. But then you look at like some of these people who are going to more of the
Oh yeah, that was considered a private loan. And then when I took out money from like the federal student loans, yeah, that fucking again I did like down to the cent, but still like it added up.
yeah, but there's people who are coming out of their master's program. They owe six figures.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Right.
And the thing is, like, they are in a job that's paying like maybe only getting like 40,000 a year on like a $200,000 like debt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because I remember after we did our Birth of a Nation review, we kind of like went down this like kind of rabbit hole of listening to like interviews with Civil War veterans, but even like some of the slaves, former slaves that
From slaves.
were interviewed. And I remember the one slave that talked about it's like I don't even like borrow like
Yeah,
five
he
bucks
basically like yeah I don't yeah he basically said I don't buy anything on credit.
because that's slavery,
Yeah.
and I don't want to be in that again. And people are willingly putting themselves into indentured servitude or slavery to and God so this so like will kind of come into our movie review, um and it's insane the amount of debt that people are putting themselves in to just go to college and get their master's degree and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and it's crazy like how especially like for master's programs like how much like they're willing to bend over backwards to get you in the door.
well, and
They
here's the
like yeah they throw like as they because it's a racket. Education is a racket now. But
yeah.
yeah, like I remember people who were applying for masters after art school, and they're like programs are like they're like oh yeah we'll pay for your entire schooling, like we'll pay for your 3 years.
So with undergrad, there is a certain cap, but when it comes to like the master's program, they don't care. They'll loan you as much money as you need to finish your
Mm-hmm.
master's.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that as like there comes a point where it's like there was a time where yeah you could pay for your education on a part-time job while you go to school. Like my parents generate, my mom, my dad, they could do that.
Right.
But it's really, and then like when I was going through school, like especially in high school, like if you're not going to go to college, you're a loser and you'll never amount to anything. And it's like, and then
Yeah, like the kind of like the put down was like, oh, what? You're gonna spend the rest of your life flipping burgers? I'm
yeah,
just
it's
like,
like
what's wrong with flipping burgers?
that's not that, and that's the thing. It's like no, there's a lot of other avenues. Obviously, I went to the military, which was different. And I don't think anyone else in my class was doing that. But then as I got older, it's like no, there's so many other things you can do. There's so many like plumbers and like AC guys and like whatever.
Yeah,
Those guys are doing
electricians.
way more than like yeah, unless like you're some like crook, crook in like Wall Street or whatever. It's like you're who is making like you know $1 million a year on some crazy shit. Like you're really like I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the job I'm in now, but there's a lot of stuff like you're making like good money. Like if you're a plumber or AC guy, they can't get people to fill those jobs. They can't get people to like work in the waste industry. They pay those guys out the ass.
Yeah, I mean, electricians, they make six figures.
Yeah, and that's like that's a trade school.
Yeah, right. And yeah, and like you can, yeah, and there's a lot you can do. Like you can go and like get like an actual internship, and learn skills, which you could then turn around and like start a business, or if you want, you can easily go get a job, at some you know at some company.
Yeah, if you think that like if you're struggling, like you're not really sure where you want to go in life, I implore you, listen to anything that like Mike Rowe talks about. Mike Rowe will will put you on the right path. There are so many fucking jobs out there that people a uh they can't fill those jobs, and they are you are going to get paid a lot of money. And if it doesn't matter if you're in poverty or whatever, you're going to get yourself out of that, and you're going to make a lot of money because
Mhm.
no one can do those jobs. And yeah, some of them are hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're not difficult, but it's not just physical labor. It takes a lot of mental fortitude too, because being an electrician, fuck that. I can't even imagine. I don't have the mental capacity to figure that shit out. Um, those guys are not only brilliant, but obviously, yeah, there's a little physical labor in there, but they're brilliant. Like,
Yeah, like
in they
yeah,
put
because
in
crawling like underneath a house, or getting on top of or getting on top of like a skyscraper. It's
yeah,
same shit, different context. Um,
exactly, and
yeah, and I mean, but like even now, look at like all the entrepreneurs who are like getting into food, like food businesses. Um, you have Ivy League educated like lawyers who are like saying like fuck this shit, and like starting up a food truck, and they're getting like immense success. And
yeah,
that's like that old saying that, oh, what are you gonna do, flip burgers for a living? It's like,
yeah, okay.
yeah, okay, you know it's
Well,
like,
and that,
someone has to feed you, someone has to make the food.
that was also a huge like revolution, when it comes to the food industry, where you don't need a brick and mortar building.
Yeah,
You
I
can
mean, yeah, like kind of like in that movie Chef, where this guy, he was working at this really highfalutin restaurant, but he was like even in those kind of industries, you can find yourself a rut, or you can find you can uh, you um, you can be trapped by those as well. But what did he do? He broke free. He started working for himself, and yeah, and he was able to find success.
yeah,
What is it? There's a lot. Yeah, like even now, like there are things called ghost kitchens, and people who don't necessarily have the funds for like a restaurant, a space of their own. They can at least like rent out kitchen space and like make food, and utilize like Grubhub, or Uber Eats, or any one of the delivery apps, and they're able to have a restaurant, without having like a restaurant. Um, but yeah, it's just, and again, like no one's looking down, and people who like start like restaurant businesses, no one's looking down on them. Like you could probably get a featurette in like on Eater, or Munchies, or whatever, and like and especially if you do,
yeah.
if you're making something innovative and delicious, you can easily get like a featurette on one of those big mainstream food websites.
And here's the other thing too. Like the other thing that like also really bothers me is that, listen, if you're working like that's there's a lot of honor in that. Like it doesn't matter what you're doing. Yeah, sure. Obviously, you want to like be in something that's gonna pay you well, pay you what you deserve, or like that. But like I always see like those articles about like, oh, so and so used to be on a hit TV show, and now they're working at like Costco. It's like, yeah, but you know what? Like they're happy, and not only are they like not in the gutter, but they're working. Like it's not like they're doing nothing.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
supporting their family. Like
I think
just shit.
most recently, that one actor who's on the Cosby Show, he played the husband to one of the Cosby kids. He was there was a picture snapped of him working at a Trader Joe's. And
They
it was
him, and it's like,
yeah, they
why?
made fun of him. It's like I was like, oh, like you're on this big hit TV show, but you're working at a Trader Joe's. Oh, how far you've fallen. It's just like, but he
It's
like
not.
the way he explained it, it's like it made sense for him. He's like, yeah, I did the Cosby Show, but that was like 30, 40 years ago, and working here enables me to have a more open schedule, so I can still go out on like you know
Auditions.
auditions. There you go. I was about to say tryouts. I was like, that's not right. But yeah, like the working at Trader Joe's frees me up to go out on auditions. And just like that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's not to say that he's not getting residuals for when he was on the Cosby Show. So it's like maybe the Cosby Show, like, yeah, it pays him enough money for maybe like the essentials or whatever, for like his apartment or his mortgage or whatever, but then it doesn't quite cover everything. And so and he's still a working actor, and so and again, working actor. Let's keep that working part front and center. Like, he's a working actor, and so like he needs, and sometimes the parts aren't gonna pay out too well, and so like he has to take a job, another job, just to kind of keep up ends meet. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not like he's like kind of just living off of the glory days and just it's I really don't understand that. It's really frustrating. Like when, oh, you're working in this type of job, like are you a loser? It's like no, it's usually a lot of the people that are in those spots are either like they are the elite, or they themselves aren't in a job. It's like, well, I'm not gonna work in that type of job. It's like, yeah, well, guess what? You're not making any fucking money either. So it's like,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
who are you?
I'm reminded of this old episode of Little House on the Prairie, and what was it? It was when like the Ingalls family, they were like kind of on rough, on hard times, and Charles Ingalls, the father, he goes and takes up like this kind of menial job, like kind of cleaning out barns or whatever, and the daughter, like, there's a kind of like the mean girl of the town, kind of makes fun of her dad for doing like menial kind of work, because her dad is like kind of more or less a professional for that time, and he ran the mercantile, the kind of like the town store,
Yeah,
and so she lived in relative like luxury for specifically for that time too, um, and like after the confrontation with the mean girl, the daughter goes and starts crying, and then the father finds her. It's like, oh, why are you crying? It's like, oh, well, the girl in town, she was saying that that you're nothing more than like a dirty laborer, and da 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 da. And he says like he basically says like any job a man can do is a good job.
yeah,
And yeah, that's right. Is it the most esteemed or prestigious? It's like, no, but even a plumber would get his feet kissed, if the king's toilet is backed up.
exactly. And the thing is, like, you know, if you're gonna put yourself in like that amount of debt, like if you're putting yourselves in like to almost two
Hold on,
hundred
keep
thousand
going.
dollars
I'm gonna go
debt.
visit the little boy's room.
Okay, but yeah, if you're putting yourself in like $200,000 worth of debt, you're not able to pay that off within like the first year or two. you're fucked. Like you're essentially putting yourself into slavery, um, or indentured servitude, like where you're always constantly like paying off that debt, and as the interest rates go up, if you're not paying the whole thing off, or a good chunk of it, you're always going to be paying that debt off. And especially if like you're in a position like where you're in like lesbian dance theory or something like that, like you're not getting a good job out of that. If you're like an engineer, or um or not even an architect, but like an engineer or like a doctor or whatever, like you're at some point eventually going to be able to pay all of that off. But yeah, it's just like a lot of the the majors are just, it's not worth it. And I feel like the big lie of especially of like our generation, was that if you don't go to college, you're a loser, you'll never amount to anything, and it's just you're wasting your life, and that's just not true. It's not true.
Right, and yeah, that's a good point about like the whole interest thing, because like yeah, like when you go in and like get your loan, the interest is at one rate, but if, especially if you don't get like a fixed interest rate, you're hosed, man. Like because what is it? Some of my loans, yeah, they were like some of them had fixed interest rates, and then others were at variable interest rates. Um, and if you're not, if you're not, if you're not savvy on the whole, vocabulary, variable, fixed means like it'll stay the same no matter what. Like it could be 5 years from the, from when you got the loan, but the rate of which like the the amount of extra money you have to pay, like it'll remain the same, as opposed to variable, which means it depends on like the market or whatever like the Fed decides that they're going to set the interest rate it's at. So you might start off with like an interest rate of like 2% every year, um, but like at the 5 year mark, it could be as high as 7%. And so like whatever you owed plus like 7% extra on top. So yeah, that's a recipe for like as Robert was saying, like that's a recipe for slavery or indentured servitude at the least. Um, yeah. So this idea that you needed to go to college to make something of yourself or to be a success is you know it's a huge amount of bull. And one of the reasons for the big push uh, for people to go to college was when the government got involved, and they started guaranteeing loans for education, which would make everyone slaves. Because like what's better to have, especially like it's a really weird thing because the government is only supposed to be funded through some taxes and then tariffs. Well, I mean historically that's how it was set up to be, but then um, it's through modern times that they somehow like started all of like these schemes like with Social Security and like of course like with education, and so the government is just creating more revenue streams for itself.
That's exactly what it is. And here's the other thing too about those student loans is, even if you file bankruptcy, that stuff will that
Yeah,
will.
it's so crazy. That's the one thing you can't default on.
Yep.
You can't be like, oh, like I'm completely broke. I can't pay this off. It's like, okay, no problem. Like any other situation, like that's allowed, and like there is a penalty. Like your credit will be affected for 10 years. It'll affect your ability to get a loan for something else, like a house or like even buying a car. But Yeah,
So
you
in
cannot
in
you
a
cannot
way,
you cannot default on you cannot default on the payments for a student loan.
I do feel kind of sorry in a way for some people who have been fooled into this,
Hmm.
but at the same time, like I also don't want to be, and they're like, oh, we need to just free ourselves of college debt. Like it just needs to be wiped out, and college should be free. It's like no, because I don't want to pay for your college.
Right.
I
I
was able to
mean,
pay for like my schooling, my own way. I found a
right.
way to do it.
I mean, I think philosophically and somewhat biblically, I think it would be a good thing if we did have like a jubilee, like kind of like within society, but only if we change like the whole borrowing system.
Well, here's the other thing too with that is like, first of all, we need to get like because college used to be very affordable. It was something that like I said, you could pay for it like on a part time like you're
Yeah, part-time job like delivering pizzas or whatever.
for like 20 hours a week,
Right.
and you're able to
Yeah,
pay for your.
you could be a waiter on the weekends and pay for college.
But because the government has become so, and the thing is like the more that a school would evolve and like grow and be more bloviated, the government would give them more money, and so they're
Mhm.
subsidized so much.
Right,
And
because it like because what is it? And like don't get me wrong, it's not completely the government's fault because the institutions themselves have become corrupt as well. Because like,
no, but it's kind of like they're working together.
well,
That's the
right,
thing.
yeah. But but let's not uh, dump completely on the government because the institutions they'll be like, it's like okay, again, good intentions being being the paving stones to hell. Um, the government said like, okay, there's some people who can't afford it. Okay, so we will guarantee funding for these students. So how much is the tuition? It's like, oh, like $300. Okay, we'll give you, we'll pay the other half of 150. And then the next year comes along. It's like, oh, actually, we have more expensive. We're getting like more students, so it's like, okay, so how much is the tuition? It's like, actually, it's gonna be $600 a year. It's like, okay, then we'll cover the 300, and on and on and on and on, and so on and so.
I don't know.
And so the institutions kind of caught wise, and they're like, oh, so like because like when I was in school, like every year they increased tuition. Yeah, it wasn't like to some crazy amount. They always only put it like, oh yeah, we're gonna increase tuition like 1 point something percent. Of course, I went during the time when they're doing some expansion, and so like every year it was like I think close to like 3% increase every year I was there.
Yeah, and that's the thing where like we may disagree a little bit because just the way I've seen how like the government has worked over the last like 100 years,
Mhm.
it's just like more it's about like creating this like blob of insanity, like where it's trying to overtake like every aspect of the culture and life.
Right,
And
and yeah, and that's why, particularly about like the whole like Jubilee thing. That's why I said I gave it the caveat of if kind of like the borrowing system and like all of that was different.
but then
And
I want the federal government out of school, like
well, yeah,
to
yeah,
be
exactly. Like I want everything to be like on a private like
yeah,
basis.
these schools should not be subsidized in any way. Like
No.
it's fine if like if a school is a little because they have like a lot of they offer different things. So, when you go to like places like Harvard or Yale or Cornell, you're not like just paying for the education. You're paying for
You're paying for
a
the
lot
name.
of the connections too, because a lot of when you're not necessarily better than someone that goes to like Arizona State or whatever, but the not only you're paying for the education, but like a lot of these people that are
The quality of not to make this a value judgment, but the quality of the people is elevated as well.
Well, I'm not even saying that.
Not in terms of like, yeah, not again. I'm not trying to make I'm not saying like they're superior, but like the circle, like yeah, like how you were saying the connections.
When you graduate from Harvard, you have a foot in the door already because
right,
people
yeah, because like yeah, you're like your roommate could be the son of a senator, or like your lab partner could be the daughter of, some some petroleum company.
Yeah,
and
it's
on
just
and
like
on and on and on.
So depending on like what you're trying to get into, it's like people look at your resume and it's like, oh, Harvard, ooh, it's everyone knows what Harvard is, a big name school, and you're not necessarily better than the guy from Arizona State, but you'll have a foot in the door before the guy from
Arizona State. Yeah, like all things being equal, like the level of education being the same, um, the Harvard name and like the people you meet at Harvard will give you a leg up, as opposed to
exactly.
like as opposed to the people that that you meet in Arizona State. And not to say that you won't get like a leg up, like, but it'll be more local. Like maybe like the person, like your roommate is the son of like the biggest like car dealership owner in Phoenix.
Exactly.
Or
It's just
yeah.
it's not denigrating like one school over the other, or like that you're less of a person for going to one school or the other, but it's just a reality.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that like there's so much of the government involved in the in the
Education.
college graduate level education, it's it's ridiculous. It's too much. And obviously the schools are like, yeah, of course, fuck, we'll take that like subsidized money. Like they're not going to turn it down, obviously, but they're also incentivized to grow and get bigger and become like a blob where
Exactly.
you're taking classes that you don't. If you're going to be like, to be honest, if you're going to be let's say you want to be a doctor, right? So you go to Harvard, you go to Yale, you go to like these prestigious schools.
Yeah, Princeton or whatever.
You don't need to take history or English classes. I mean, you obviously English and you kind of have a understanding of history, but why in the hell are you taking like the only classes you need to be taking are science? It's science classes. That's it. That's all you need.
Also at that level, when you get to college, why do you need to take these somewhat remedial kind of classes where kind of the your general education classes? Like, why do you even need general education? Why don't you just
I don't. Yeah, that's the thing that like that was the other thing that really pissed me off with like when I with my schooling. It's like I'm working to become like I want to become not only like obviously I wanted to be a pastor, but like I wanted to be a biblical scholar. I don't necessarily need to be taking like math and English. Like I want to take I want to obviously like church history was involved. I want to like learn church
yeah,
history,
learn your Greek, learn your Aramaic.
theology, stuff like that. But there's a lot of other stuff where I'm like, why am I taking this class? It doesn't make
Yeah,
any.
no, it's the exact. I know exactly what you mean, because like with me when I went, when I went to art school and they made me take a painting class or a sculpture class, like I want to do photography, and I only want to focus on photography.
Here's the reason, is because the school grew to a point where it's like, well, we can't justify having like this person here. A lot of people are, the majority of people are taking like this major or that major. So we're just going to make everybody take this class so that it justifies
Right.
having this.
Well, like specifically for me, because you can make the argument that, or I can make the argument that art school is kind of like a technical school, but like it's devoted to the arts. And so I think if you undecided on like what you want to do with art, and you need then you shouldn't go there. It's like if you want to do painting, then you should only take painting classes. If you know you only want to do like sculpture, then only do sculpture. If you only want to do photography, only do photography. Because you know when you get to the college level, you should already have a pretty firm idea of what you want to do.
Exactly. And here's the other thing too is because there was a lot of classes that I took that were considered electives, but to me, those classes were a hell of a lot more necessary than like what were like considered like the actual curricula of what I was having to study. I'm like, when I was as far as like the biblical scholarship stuff, I took a class on learning about like essentially what was the class called? It was something like the literature of the intertestamental period, like so between like the time between when the Old Testament was when they finished writing the Old Testament and the beginning of the New. Well, a lot of people think that like there was nothing that happened,
Right.
but in actuality, there was a lot of stuff that was being written. Well, to me, that's important because that actually plays a huge part in how the New Testament was written and like what is actually being said there. And it made the New Testament make a hell of a lot of sense. And then there's other classes I took where it's like this has nothing to do with anything that I'm have any interest in, or B has anything to do with like me helping you know the Christian community in any way. It's like I to be honest, I was more interested in like some of the more like scholarly stuff, not because I thought like oh this I'm trying to be better than everyone else, but it's like this is going to help me to help people understand what the hell is going on uh, when it comes to the Bible, and to help them to like have a better life. And the school I went to is like it's a private school, and it was way less expensive than like going to a state school or
Or
a
private school.
huge university. But still, it's just like it's weird how the government has really gotten involved in how education is, and it's really frustrating because it's like when it comes like I understand in grade school, K through kindergarten through 12th grade, yeah, you're getting basic education. You're learning your math, you're learning English, you're learning history, you're learning kind of like the basics of society. But when you get to
Fundamentals.
college, like if you're not if like you're doing something where like you're more in like the English or the history side, why the fuck are you studying like anything math or science related? It doesn't make sense. Why am I paying for that?
Right. I mean, because even when I was in art school, I still had to take a math class. It's just like, why do I have to take a math class? But again, it's just like again because the government has extended itself and like they're making these requirements to and then also sometimes even because again I think because we went to very specialized schools, so we can have a take on this more than say like someone who goes to a state school, but if you're going in for specialty, then why do you have to take these these superfluous classes?
Yeah, exactly. It does not make sense at all.
No. But again, it goes into because also like because the government becomes they overextend themselves, and so they start making requirements. Oh, you want our money? Well, you have to include this in your offering. Basically, it's like, or to meet this, we're changing the requirement. You have to have this class, or you have to have that class, or you have to take out this class. So it's just not, another reason why government should stay the hell out of education. I mean, ultimately it should, and at least federal should stay the hell out of it. It should all be as local as possible. It's particularly in like the fundamentals, like your elementary schools, and I
Yeah. Oh,
think
yeah.
and then and like junior and high school, they should I think they should be somehow merged, but also made shorter. And and that should be a period, particularly like in like the middle school age range. It should be a time of exposure to different things. So like like teach them about masonry or welding or metal shop or
Dude,
farming even.
I don't. But do you remember a time like when we had like wood shop and like metal shop and like stuff like that in schools?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
do.
yeah, I do too. Of course, I never got to
I
do wood shop.
like
I never got to do
somebody
wood
do.
shop because they put me on because during middle school or junior high they put me on this track of classes like elective classes where it
Mhm.
would have like the last one was supposed to be woodshop, but they kept me from woodshop for some reason. Even though like I specifically asked, like, can I take woodshop? And I think because of my hand, they wouldn't. No, I don't know. Maybe it was an insurance
Yeah,
thing.
it was.
But it was so funny because I was still able to take like because you know they were starting to offer after school classes, and they opened up the wood shop and they did plastic shop, so I was able to work with plastics, and I was able to do that, but I wasn't able to do wood shop.
Yeah, I did.
It was a little
Yeah,
weird.
that's like because I took some interest. Like to be honest, my junior high and high school experience, like I took some really interesting classes.
Mhm.
I was in a engineering and architecture like magnet in high school, and so I got to do a lot of that stuff, and realized that that's just not what I wanted to do.
Right.
But at the
Yeah,
same time,
no, yeah. Like I was in the track of electives where it's like they were still offering typing lessons, like how to type like on a typewriter.
mm,
That's how old I am. And then also like kind of like also introduction to computers.
yeah, I still suck at it.
I mean, I'm pretty fast, even though like with my hand, like I'm only able to like type, type, kind of
I'm
like the point
I'll be
the pointer. I'm the pointer method, so it's like one key at a time, but I'm still pretty quick.
I'll
And
be
yeah,
honest.
I still have to look at like my keyboards because I still have to look at the keyboard because but like yeah, when I look up at what I typed out, it's pretty good. Like very
You're,
few mistakes.
I'll admit you're a better typer than me. I mean, not that I'm like one of like the old man where I'm like, uh, uh, but like
Yeah, like
it's just like when I
it's like
you're faster than me.
R O B. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways, before we get too lost in the weeds and start bitching about government, any other kind of conventional wisdom things?
That honestly was like really the major one that I was thinking of for
Uh,
me. I mean, I had some other ones, but I was like, when I thought of that, to like, because I was kind of thinking about this like stuff today, and I was like, oh God, it's
well, I
like,
think one uh, thing that you brought up, which is pretty relevant now, is particularly because of how big like food has become in our culture, but like the food pyramid. Where they were offering they said like for best health, make the majority of your diet, bromated uh, bread products,
yeah,
with like with some meat and some vegetables, and some fruit, and then like as little fat as possible. But now we're coming to realize that that's a bunch of bullshit.
well,
Particularly like with like fats, because like we're now finding out like how bad like seed oil is for the human
yeah,
body, and how cooking with lard is actually healthier for you than cooking with with vegetable oil.
and that's the thing that like people don't realize is, uh, now we have like whole diets that are based off of like more of like your fattier meats and stuff like where
Yeah, yeah. I
the
mean, like, yeah,
diets, the
it's
Atkins diet, like that stuff that actually like is actually much better for you than more of the empty carbohydrates. I mean, if you're doing like some major workouts and stuff like that, like
yeah.
having
Like
a
if
lot
you're on a bulk,
good,
I get it, breads.
yeah. But in reality, like a lot of us are not doing that.
Mm.
So the fact if you're just eating like more of like your, you know, like lean meats and stuff like that, that's actually probably better for you. Like like red meat, chicken, fish,
Yeah, and like
stuff.
like some natural fats like that you find in like animal fat like lard is actually
Yeah,
good for you. Like
like
yeah, so like yeah, more yeah, so more butter, more meat,
like a ribeye a day keeps the doctor away.
right? Yeah, and I'm not to say yeah, and I'm not just saying that you know exclude. I mean, there are some people who do like the crazy like carnivore diet, and like only meat. I'm
That's
just like
that even that like I was like I look at that diet, I'm like I can't do that because I do like other stuff.
yeah. I mean, I could do the carnivore diet because I'm very much carnivore.
I,
But
I
but every once in a while, I don't know, I'll throw in a salad. A small salad, of course. But
I love, to be honest, I love a good Cobb salad.
yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest salad person, but every once in a while, salad's cool. Like,
Yeah, I like broccoli. I know it's weird. I like broccoli. I like having a good potato every once in a while. Some
mhm,
mac and cheese. And then obviously like,
yeah,
because of, my situation, I eat a lot of Korean food now.
mhm,
Uh yeah, it's like yeah.
yeah, which is like, yeah,
And I love
just
Korean food.
yeah, despite the misleading like Korean barbecue restaurants, a lot of the Korean diet is vegetables.
It
And
really is.
again, it's not bad. It's not. I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. Um, but it's not. But it's not only vegetables.
Yeah. Um I well hell, like one of my favorite dishes, when it comes to Korean food is the in Korean it's called the yumsatang,
Yeah,
but it's
goat
it's
stew.
goat stew, and it's delicious. And it has a lot of vegetables in it, but it
Hmm.
has goat meat in it, and it's spicy, has a lot of vegetables. I love, and I'm a big like kind of gamey meat type of guy. But yeah, the food pyramid that we were forced to like study as kids, and it was all bullshit. And I don't know. God, I wonder if it's still being taught in school in like health class. It would not surprise me.
I'm sorry. What was that last bit?
No, I was saying like it would not surprise me if it's still being taught in school, even though it's like completely debunked.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, like that's pretty much how I had it. Like as far as like stuff that we were for our generation, like we
Yeah.
were lied to as kids growing up that it's just become completely false.
Right. Again,
Or
yeah.
it not
Conventional
really
wisdom.
all false, but it just like it was something that was like kind of forced on us as we were growing up, and
Yeah.
we
It was hijacked. That's what it was. It was hijacked.
yeah.
Like, is education wrong? No. But paying getting going into debt for it is not good.
And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying college is useless. It's not,
Right, yeah. I
but
mean, that's what I'm
like
saying. Yeah, education is not a bad thing, but going into debt, what is it?
a lifelong.
Going into lifelong debt. Thank you. Going into lifelong debt for it is not a good thing. Is smoking particularly good for you? No, but are you gonna die if you stand next to someone who smokes?
No,
Is it gonna shave off like years? No.
every time you're next to a smoker, you're gonna lose 5 years. No, that's fucking false.
Yeah. I mean, because yeah, it's like, what is it? Like, what are those? What about people who like? I mean, I know it wasn't as prevalent as it is now, but like, who regularly worked like around smoke. Like, I mean, again, I don't know, but like, let's take like barbecue pit masters.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not like the best to be around it like all the time, but like just being around it though isn't gonna like like we were saying, it's not gonna shave like 10 years off your life.
It's all bullshit. And here's the thing, like I'm not saying that lung cancer isn't caused from like obviously like being a smoker or whatever like that. Clearly that does happen,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's other people that like a lot of people they smoke like 5 packs a day, eat bacon like a pack of bacon every day, and like they live to be 120. It's ridiculous. So it's just like it's based off of individual. To be honest, I
Yeah,
am
it's
convinced
completely.
that everyone is different,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't compartmentalize the health of someone. It's like
Yeah,
people.
you just can't generalize where it's like everyone is everyone has to eat this way, or everyone has to go to school and and get into debt, or everyone has to give up smoking or whatever.
Exactly, it's everyone is different, and they something works differently for them, and you have to. And I am a big advocate of you got to find your way, you got to find your route, you got to find your lane that you fit in. And
Yes.
you might be going against the grain, you might be going against traffic as far as like finding that path, but that doesn't mean you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and most of the time people like think that you're going the wrong way. They're gonna get out of the way for you anyways. So like you could just keep moving forward, and people will just like get out of your way.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that going with traffic is a bad way either. Like some people like that's what's gonna work for you, and you're gonna have your best life. You're gonna live in you're gonna have a great family. You're gonna do all the things that you want by going with traffic, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, the people that go against traffic, that are not going to just follow along with what society thinks is best for them, and those are the innovators. Those are the people that are gonna move society in a different direction, and that's great for them too.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
should
those are
be
the guys that that create the hit album, or create the newest vaccine.
yeah,
Because it's like the guy who's like playing with his moldy bread discovered that, oh wow, this kills bacteria.
yep, yeah.
And
So
created penicillin. So,
yeah, exactly. So, and I guarantee that nobody was really thinking of that.
exactly.
So
But
it's whether it doesn't matter. Like you just have to. And I'm not advocating one way or the other, but you got to find your own way. And it's more of it's kind of the same thing we've been talking about with like the whole like vaccine stuff. It's a you're weighing the cost versus the risk. Is it worth
yeah,
is it worth it?
benefits risk analysis. Everyone does that. Like literally, like if you decide to go through one entrance of a supermarket versus another, you're making a risk reward calculation. If you're deciding to drink the grape flavor Gatorade versus the lemon flavor, you're making cost benefit analysis.
Exactly.
So don't think like because someone doesn't do something like they're an evil person or whatever, or they're strange. It's like if you drink the grape flavor Gatorade, someone's gonna think you're strange because you're it's like, well, why don't you get the fruit punch flavor? Everyone knows that's the best, and it's like, again, every day you're doing cost benefit analysis, and you're gonna come to a decision that uh, some people aren't gonna get to. But you know what? It doesn't matter because it's your decision.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Um,
Anything
yeah,
else?
that's all I had to say about that. And I, to be honest, I really think that it really kind of does segue into the movie review as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say one other thing I was gonna bring up was environmentalism, uh, but that I don't want to get too lost in the weeds about that.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's again
on that
to kind of condense it to get to the point. It's the same thing we just said right now. It's cost benefit analysis. Everyone has, it starts with and every time that you do something to reduce your carbon footprint or your usage of single use items, you're doing environmentalism. And it doesn't take like the government to change the world. It's just you just change the world. You just change your own world, and other people will be inspired and do the same or not. So.
Well, the one thing I will say about that is, I think like when I came now, people were saying like more radical things besides this, but like when it came to like as far as like us growing up and like what we heard, the idea of like planting more trees. Okay, I'm for it. Let's plant as many. I love planting trees. That's great. I think that's a good thing. Recycling. Okay, yeah, I think that's a good thing. Let's try to find a way to like to recycle the things that we're using, and kind of like make a continued use so that we're you know um
Oh.
reserving resources. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Okay, this is where I will push back on, but like the whole idea of like using products that have recycled materials in it, that's such bullshit. Because if you look at the percentage of the recycled material, it's so small.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you on that, but the idea behind it is not a bad thing.
Yes, yes, but I'm just saying, like people who get like all high up, like high on their own farts or whatever about using like products with like recycled material. It's like fuck you. All right, it is less than like there's less than 50% of like the things that say that they use recycled materials is less than 50%. So go fuck yourself.
I'm not, you and I are on the same page. I'm not saying that like I understand the reality, but I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. Like I'm all for it.
Yes,
Like
me too.
if we can find a way to like reutilize like
Yeah, I mean, before like the whole like plastic straws thing and like the new like lids or whatever, like the new sippable like clear lids that they had at Starbucks, I was already like bringing in like my own like mug to get coffee.
yeah, that which is
My
that's
own, my own reusable mug, and also they charge you less if you bring your own reusable mug.
bingo. But like I said, the idea behind it is not a bad idea.
Yes.
I'm also not like advocating like chucking garbage out of your car, or having like some homeless encampment like dump their garbage wherever.
Except for sea turtles. Fuck sea turtles.
Yeah, but no, the sea turtles.
Fuck all the sea turtles. Anyways, all right, let's be done with that because we're kind of running long on time now. But yeah, let's get into our movie review and let's finish it up.
Oh, Fight Club.
Fight Club. All right, yeah, let's get into Fight Club. I will give everyone the synopsis and we'll get going. A depressed man suffering from insomnia meets a strange soap salesman named Tyler Durden and soon finds himself living in his squalid house after his perfect apartment is destroyed. The two bored men form an underground club with strict rules and fight other men who are fed up with their mundane lives. Their perfect partnership frays when Marla, a fellow support group crasher, attracts Tyler's attention.
Yeah. Oh man, this movie is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into like a little bit of the pre-production, just as far as like some alternate directing and like casting for this movie. So David Fincher obviously is the director of this film. We know him from like Alien 3. He did Seven, um, Zodiac, and like Social Network. Those are like some of his more
Wait,
famous movies.
he did Social Network, or
Yep.
he directed it?
He directed it.
Okay, yeah, because I think what's his face, Sorkin wrote it.
Yeah, he wasn't the writer. He was definitely the director, though.
Okay, yeah, because usually Aaron Sorkin, he writes and directs. No, that's not true. He's mostly a writer. Anyway, carry on.
Do you want to know who was initially like tapped to direct this movie?
Do tell.
Peter Jackson.
Whoa, really?
A way different movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that to me, I'm like, and don't get me wrong, I like Peter Jackson, but it's not right for this movie. It's just not right.
Yeah, the aesthetic would have been all wrong.
And thankfully he was busy with like another film at the time, so it didn't work out.
Lord of the Rings.
And then the role of Edward Norton's character, the narrator, or he's
Jack.
You never actually know his real name in the film,
right?
But like he actually was supposed to be played by Matt Damon.
Yeah, I just recently discovered that too.
Which I can kind of see. I can totally see it, but I'm glad that they used Edward Norton because he is kind of in that Christian Bale school of things, and I think he brought something to.
And you know what? I don't think it would have worked too because Matt Damon would have been too handsome for that role.
Definitely, yeah.
Because if Edward Norton's character was supposed to be like this kind of pathetic, emasculated type of man, you can't have Matt Damon in that role.
Yeah, Sean Penn was also considered too, which kind of could have worked, but I'm to be honest, I'm glad that they chose that.
Yeah, in a different way. Like if they went more like kind of the middle age kind of midlife crisis type of route, I could see Sean Penn working.
The the other for Marla, that was Bonham Carter. Oh, I'm so glad that they didn't go with their alternate choices. They were looking at one, Janine Garofalo. Oh God, thank God they didn't go that route.
No, can't see it.
Yeah, it just thank God.
Man, but Janine Garofalo.
Courtney Love and Winona Ryder were other ones that were considered. Winona Ryder, I could kind of see in this role.
Yeah, kind of like the Lydia Darling kind.
Yeah, but then Reese Witherspoon was the other one that was considered for this role too.
Oh no, completely miscast. If it was Reese Witherspoon, it would have been a complete miscast.
Exactly. So Bonham Carter was, I think, perfect, and like the way that she portrayed this role is she took inspiration off of like kind of like what the hell is her name from Wizard of Oz? She was looking
Wicked
at
Witch.
No.
Or Glenda.
Dorothy.
Or Dorothy.
Who is the actress that played Dorothy?
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. She was thinking about Judy Garland like later in her career when she was like kind of really like her drug addiction like really kind of came about. That's the inspiration she took to like do the role.
Interesting.
Which definitely works. And that's as far as I know, as far as like kind of some of the alternate like ideas for casting for this film, or for the direction. Honestly, everyone made the right choice. Everyone made the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even Meatloaf.
Oh, Meatloaf was awesome in this movie.
Yeah.
Bob with his bitch tits.
Yeah. uh, all right. I mean, how do you want to tackle this one?
Well, I mean, obviously, like the big thing that there's a big twist in this movie. Let's just address it right from the beginning. Is
Okay.
that our character played by Edward Norton, who
the
is
narrator, aka Jack,
known as in the casting list, like as far as like the characters, he's just known as the narrator. We actually don't really know.
Yeah, or you could or aka Jack because he reads the
Exactly. But him and Tyler Durden are technically the same person.
Right.
So that's obviously like the big twist in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, who is the real person? And like, when does that change occur?
Right. I think what is it? I do think the narrator is the actual person because what is it? In the last scene where Tyler is like addressing him, it's like you created me. I didn't create some loser version to make myself feel better.
But here's the thing, because I also kind of like knowing the twist like ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm this is the first time I've seen the film from start to finish, but I knew the twist. I also thought like when I was watching it, it's like let's watch this in a way like where Tyler Durden and Brad Pitt is the real person, and he's kind of like made up. The
Well, I would still say that the narrator is a real person. Tyler Durden is the hallucination, only because of the security camera footage. In the underground parking scene, like the fight scene.
That's true.
Because you don't like, you don't like you see the narrator, but you don't see Tyler Durden.
That's true. I'll give you that. But it is kind of interesting thinking of like Tyler Durden being the real person and not the narrator.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But as far as like when that change goes about, we really don't know.
Here's my theory is like you kind of see Tyler Durden kind of like manifesting here and there uh, throughout the beginning of the movie, anyways. You see like little flashes of him, or you outright see him like in that hotel like welcome video. You could if you didn't know, um, where the staff is like welcome, and actually you see Tyler Durden in that shot.
That's right. Oh well, because I didn't catch that, but like obviously like he has like the there's a couple like quick flashes of
Mm-hmm.
him like as far as like when he's the narrator's talking about like his insomnia, and there's certain like flashes where they see Tyler Durden.
Yeah, but I
What
think
is that
yeah, but I think but slowly through the insomnia and through like his like kind of like blackout spells, I think Tyler kind of asserts himself. And that's why he had a job at like that as a server at the hotel, or he was a projectionist. And I think those were the narrator doing those jobs, but he just cast Tyler as those in those jobs.
Funny thing is, like when they were making the movie, like when uh I think it was Fincher that wanted to show like the quick flashes of Tyler Durden. When they were showing up like the 20th Century Fox. Kind of like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
20th.
yeah. Da, 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 da. Yeah.
And then like even like when I forgot what the other production company was, he wanted to show like the flash of Tyler Durden, they would not allow him to do
No.
that.
Yeah.
Which
Cause I think it's also just like one of those like stupid rules that they came up with, like kind of like with George Lucas, how like there are certain rules like you have to have like credits at the beginning, but George Lucas bucked that trend and like did just like the opener, and he saved the credits for the end.
yeah, which I'm like, it's like it would have been because people are like nowadays are like kind of like fucking around with that stuff, which
Mhm.
is I think great.
Yeah, I
Kind of
mean, kind of to stay within line of like the Simpsons reference, but like when the Simpsons movie came out, they had Ralph Wiggum doing the orchestral music for the Fox logo, like da 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 da.
yeah. So it's just like it's kind of like
Yeah, it's starting
I
to
would
get loosey goosey.
allow Fincher to do that during this film, but
Yeah,
hey, whatever.
right.
But
Um,
do you think like as far as like when the movie starts that I mean, God, I mean, insomnia sucks. Trust me,
mhm,
I've had it before. It's not for like the narrator who had it like for like 6 months, but like I've had it like for like, a couple of days. And it really sucks ass.
mhm.
But the fact that like was Tyler Durden already like a thing before even the movie starts? Do you think?
I think so, yeah. But
So what?
again, like, but then like the full like manifestation of him and like the hallucination part didn't like occur. Like he didn't like was able to fully manifest until I think that airplane scene where like he actually like kind of like interacts with Tyler Durden.
Oh, yeah, okay. So after like the whole him visualizing like the plane crash in his
Mm-hmm.
mind,
Mm-hmm.
that's really like where Tyler Durden becomes a reality.
Yeah, at least I think. Yeah, because like again, you start to see like little the quick flashes and like you see Tyler in like the welcome video and then and then he actually appears like to be real and like on like the like the moving pathway like at the airport.
Yeah,
But like yeah like but even then like the narrator isn't aware of him until like that airplane scene where again he visualizes the airplane like having a midair collision and then that and he actually has a conversation with Tyler Durden.
I just had to say like though, similar to Memento,
Mm-hmm.
like like the movie is so different. Like when you first watch it, and then when you know the twist,
Mm-hmm.
and watching it again, the movie is like, wow, how did I miss this?
Right, yeah, like what was it that scene in the basement when he's getting like beat up by the mobster. Like
Yeah,
when Brad Pitt's character is punched initially, you can see Edward Norton's character, and he after right when Tyler Durden is punched, Edward Norton's character drops his head, just as though he had been punched. What else? Oh, Bob thanking the narrator for fight. You initially think that he's just thanking him for the fight that they had. After they find out that they're both members, but I think it's because Bob found out that he was Tyler Durden, the narrator was Tyler Durden, and so he profusely thanks him for creating Fight Club and all that stuff. Um, what else? What else is there? What other little hints? Um, oh, like the whole like oh was there any other? So I mentioned the scene where he's being attacked by the mobster and like as soon as the mobster punches Tyler, the narrator head like tucks down too, like as if he's being hit.
Well, I'm trying to think too, like where there's scenes where things just kind of get like really weird, where like you kind of like the idea where, especially like the whole interaction between like Marla and the narrator, and initially like where he doesn't realize that like he's the relationship with the physical relationship with Marla, who is also a really fucked up person, but where we find out it's like he's the one that's having sex with her, but doesn't remember it because he assumes
right. He has a disassociated personality.
And so yeah, obviously like in the movie we kind of think like, oh, Tyler's this like other person, but then like later in the movie when we find out like he is Tyler Durden, whoa, what the hell? It's like we've lost cabin pressure. It's kind of like
yeah.
And it's like and she even says like you either you fuck me, you love me, you hate me, and it's like it's this weird really fucked up relationship, and it's just that and when you like look back at the movie, when you know the twist and you watch the movie again, it's like, oh my god, it's just like, and we are it could be like 5 minutes, like in real time it could be like 5 minutes where it's like he is acting as like Tyler Durden, and then he like his mind like comes back to the narrator, and he acts like in this like in the narrator's like kind of mindset,
right.
And all the interactions, not only just with like Marla, but like with all the characters that like he interacts with. Yeah, it's so weird, and the um the idea of like especially like when later in the movie where he is uh supposedly like, Tyler Durden is gone, and he's trying to like figure out like what the hell is going on, like Tyler's gone all of a sudden, and he discovers like a lot of like all the driver's licenses and all the all these plans, and the people who have been inspired by Tyler Durden and the Fight Club, and kind of turn into Project Mayhem. He doesn't know what's going on, but when he's like retracing the steps of Tyler Durden, he kind of sort of has deja vu, and he just knows, which means that he's been there before. He knows in a way he does know what's going on, but he doesn't. And the other question I have for you is like is you know him splitting off into the personality of Tyler Durden, is that what he always is that really who he wanted to be? Was that like the life, what was his life before that really like kind of split his brain into this like other personality? Was it just the idea of his life had no meaning? Was it because of like his insomnia, or was it something else that really like split his brain? Because you don't become a split personality because you have a good life. Something has gone completely wrong in your life where your brain is like kind of like protecting it from itself, from whatever trauma that you're dealing with.
Or like like Tyler Durden explained, like he was trying to change his life, but he didn't know how. So his mind created Tyler Durden as an agent of change to help him, get over that hump. Uh,
Well, because obviously, we start the movie obviously with him going through like a lot of like the therapy stuff. He hadn't been sleeping, and he's like, I'm going. He talks to his doctor. He doesn't. He's like, I have this problem. I can't sleep, and I'm in pain.
Right.
And the doctor says like, no, you need real sleep. Ambien or whatever is not going to help you. You need actual, real REM cycle sleep. And so it's like, and you're not in pain. If you want to see real pain, go to like the testicular cancer,
Support group.
recover, people who are recovering. And so he does that. He goes to the testicular cancer, group, and he ends up becoming like addicted from like being in that group, and like he goes to all these different types of recovery groups, not because he has those things, but it's a way where people will listen to kind of like listen to him, and they'll not because he's going through those things, but like they'll just kind of like assume he has that problem, and they won't just like wait, kind of like later on when he talks with Marla. It's not, people aren't just like waiting to hear. They're not just they're actually listening to him, not just waiting to say their own thing. And he's able to cry or do whatever he needs to do to like kind of make himself feel better.
Well, yeah. Then here's this is an interesting theme of kind of like self healing, and it's very interesting that like a lot of the because a lot of the these support groups meet in like churches or kind of like religious institutions, but they but none of the support groups offer religion though, which is
Well, there's that, and in reality, they're not really offering anything in a way,
well, yeah,
because
that's exactly my point though. It's because like we kind of got in this time, well, particularly when this movie came out in 1999. I think we're just coming onto the cusp of like this post-religion idea for society, and it's like it's no longer that we offer religion or you know because or even Christianity as a means of dealing with life, or trying to find meaning beyond the physical of or the pain that we're going through right now.
yeah.
And so like you have these support groups that are supposed to be offering support and uh, ease of pain, but they're not really offering anything.
And the thing is there was a time where the church really helped to take care of these problems. Like if you're struggling with alcoholism or drugs, or whatever you're dealing with, the church took care of that. And like it was always like, let's God's gonna help you with through this situation. Like we're gonna pray for one another, we're gonna do this, all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
at this time, the time that this movie was made, that time had passed. And
Right.
sure, it was being it was at a church that that these meetings were going on, but in reality, uh, it was essentially a religious, and the groups in themselves really didn't really provide anything. Everyone was very alone. And
Right. Yeah. And you saw that, and like and like the connection was very shallow because like during like the sharing times or whatever, they're all be seated separately. Like even in the cancer one, with like the guided meditation, they're all sitting separately within like the pews, and like they only got together like when it was like at the break time, or like in like the testicular cancer one, like they only came together like when it was time for them to like cry or or whatever.
the,
But it's
the other
interesting though. It's interesting though that uh, though these support groups weren't offering any support or easement of pain through religion. It's interesting though that when Fight Club is created, the narrator describes it using religious language, kind of like, oh yeah, like the cries from like the spectators are like at a Pentecostal church, like speaking in tongues. Um, and it's interestingly, in that scene where he's describing, the Fight Club as like this, almost like religious experience. The two people who are fighting, one of them is the priest.
That's right. um, well, the other part that I noticed too is like when it came to I forget her name, but like she was the cancer patient who was like dying. She was gonna die soon, and all she wanted to do is like just have like one good. She
Yeah,
wanted to get like
one last lay.
Yeah, and everyone just kind of like had their head down, and it's like it was more of like, oh, they were almost like disgusted with her in a way, and it's like, but in a lot of ways, like you can kind of you feel because like yeah, I think I would want that too. Like if you
Yeah,
don't have
like one last human connection.
yeah, like if you're not married or whatever, it's like yeah, I'm gonna die in like 6 months. Like just I want to get fucked like one more time. um and no one like gave no one was willing to like yeah fuck yeah let's do it, like no one was willing to like volunteer or even acknowledge her. And when it came to like the Fight Club being formed, that was the only time, like as fucked up as it is, like even though nothing was solved, it's like yeah there was some real connection there.
Uh, yeah, absolutely. There's also in the I referenced the scene where Tyler gets beaten up, but it's interesting that the homework assignment he gave just after that is that the members that they have to go out into the world and pick a fight with somebody, um, and which is kind of like kind of like the leadership style that he exhibited. Like he never told anyone to do anything that he first didn't do himself, because he picked a fight with that guy and he lost. But again, he worded it very interestingly, because it could be taken in two different ways. He said like, "Oh, you're gonna go pick a fight with someone out there, and you're gonna lose." And I want to pose the question to you: did he mean that they were supposed to throw the fight, or that they wouldn't be able to instigate a fight with anybody?
The way so because the way that I heard it is that either you're gonna pick a fight with someone that you can't beat,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna get your ass kicked,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, you're gonna throw the fight.
Well, yeah, because like the reason I asked is because I felt it was either one ambiguous, and I think it's actually one of the two interpretations that I offer up, because immediately afterwards the narrator described how, like, oh, most people will avoid getting into a fight, and um,
Oh,
so like
oh, we saw this differently then, because the way that I saw that is that the people that were called to like they're trying to like pick a fight is
mhm,
that the people that are like being antagonized to start a fight, most people don't want to like be in a fight, right?
exactly.
And so like the people that are being like you see the guy like spraying the hose on like the on
Yeah, but
people.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it was like he was saying like how impossible it would be to actually start a fight with somebody. In that sense, like they would lose. They would not be able to complete the homework assignment.
Well, that's the struggle is trying to even like find a fight. But then when you get in that fight, you had to lose it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like that's why I wasn't. That's why I was wondering about what your thoughts on it was, because those are my two interpretations. Like one, like you're gonna go pick a fight and then you're gonna throw it, and or two, like you're gonna go out there and try to pick a fight, but you're not gonna be able to, so you'll lose.
Yeah.
In that way.
Well, and the narrator, Edward Norton, he technically picks a fight with his boss.
Yeah.
And he.
But then, but technically, he's not able to incite him into fighting, or the boss to fight him. So does that so he technically loses that fight?
He kind of like fakes losing the fight, and in a way to like have him like pay for him not to work, and to like kind of have the Fight Club full time.
Right. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. The wording, it was interesting because it's like you're gonna go out and pick a fight with somebody, and you're gonna lose.
There's so much to this movie, like where the language and the way things are worded and done that are so important. And the first time you watch the movie, you're gonna see it one way, and then when you know everything that happens, when you watch the movie a second time, you're gonna see it a completely different way.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching this movie as a young man, and it blew my mind, and it kind of like it opened my mind. It kind of opened my mind to to philosophical ideas. And every time I watch this movie, and like depending on what stage of life that I was at, I got something completely different from it than I did before. Even now, like what is it like? Because this movie makes a lot of it does take a stand on the ideas of consumerism and masculinity. And I think despite the how flawed of a character that Tyler Durden is, I think he does have some aspirational masculine traits that every man should aspire to. One of them is as teacher. Again, not endorsing the methods, but the role of a teacher. Because he teaches Edward Norton about dealing with pain, dealing with fear. In the car scene, or like dealing, teaching how to appreciate life with the convenience store worker, giving it, again, not necessarily co-signing the method, but the lessons I think are very good. And even the role of protector, because when they are confronted with the mobster, Edward Norton, the narrator character, looks like he's gonna go step in to help Tyler Durden, but Tyler stops him from interfering, and he takes on the full punishment, again protecting the narrator.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I also have to question too, is because there's certain things where we hear the narrator, and we hear Tyler Durden, and knowing that they're actually the same person, and it's where does in reality, if someone is in that room hearing what's going on, what dialogue do we is going on in his mind, and what's actually being said? Because
right, yeah, the car scene, where they're having it out, but then there's those two like I guess like the two favorite disciples in a sense are back there, and they're responding to uh, Edward, the narrator, but it's like are they getting like the full? Are they like is the narrator doing both sides of the conversation, or are they only getting the narrator's perspective? Or are they only getting the or Tyler Durden's perspective?
Yeah, and the same thing applies to like like as far as like Marla, is she only getting like one side of that conversation as opposed to like what we get from like the interaction between Tyler Durden and the narrator. It's a question. It's like what is actually being said.
Right, like the whole like when he's like passing by the room while they're having sex, and then he's like Tyler Durden comes in, opens the door, and he's like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, nothing. And he's like, oh, you want to finish her off? And it's like no, and just like walks off, and then like she says like, oh, who are you talking to?
Yeah, that exactly. Stuff like that where I'm like, man, this is a really complicated movie.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like because how much like because like there's times when Tyler, the hallucination, is interacting with the physical world, like during that fight in the parking garage, when when the narrator gets slammed into that booth, and then Tyler flings open the door to that booth. It's like did that actually happen, or did the narrator fill that part in? Because
Yeah,
technically Tyler doesn't have to interact with uh, or can't interact with the physical world.
yeah. It's just it's really interesting, like what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's now as I go back to the movie, is just trying to figure out like where that
Yeah,
what is
where the narrator ends and Tyler starts, or vice versa.
uh and and exactly where exactly Tyler Durden begins in the case of like the narrator.
Yeah, I
As far
mean,
as like what the movie begins, has Tyler been a part of his life without him really knowing it,
mhm.
or like something like where we come into hit to the narrator's life? Does he just break at a certain point in at the movie, and Tyler Durden begins?
Right. I think it was an inevitable break. I think Tyler did was I think Tyler did get suppressed. After he started going out to the support groups. And he was actually finally able to like sleep. Um,
So you think Tyler was suppressed at that point?
yeah, when the times that he was going out to the support groups, and he was able to, cry and whatever, and get like how we say on this show, achieve catharsis.
Yeah,
Whether it was like actual catharsis or not, or but like him able to get out his pain in that manner. Um, yeah, I think Tyler Durden was suppressed in that during that time. It wasn't until Marla started coming around, and again, like how he said, like he knew she was a faker, and so like her lie reflected his lie,
yeah.
and so like he wasn't able to achieve catharsis any longer with her there, and so I think
And
that's when Tyler was able to reassert himself.
yeah, and she was fucked up like he was fucked up
Mm-hmm.
in a way.
Right. Do you think when like the disciples started coming around, um, do you think that the narrator, when he's like more violent, do you think that that's the narrator, or do you think that's Tyler?
Hmm.
Because every single time that Tyler interacts with the disciples, he's always like kind of kind to him. It's like, hey, it's like, oh, you're too young or you're too fat. It's like, hey, no hard feelings. I already told you. You're too old or you're too fat or you're too young. If you don't get off my porch, I'm gonna call the cops. But
Well,
then as opposed to when you just see Edward Norton's character, the narrator, he's like yelling at him, insulting them, like beating them. Like one of them got beat, and he like threatened to like, oh, I'm gonna go get a shovel.
well, here's
Which
the
so
other
which
thing.
which one do you think he was during those more violent times?
But see, here's the other thing too is he has that like kind of like semi close relationship with like Jared Leto's character, and then all of a sudden, the during the Fight Club, he like literally tries to beat him to a pulp,
Mm-hmm.
and
Or he
Tyler
does literally.
Tyler Durden, asked him, was like, "Where did you go, Psycho Boy?"
Mm-hmm.
So that's another like a wrench in the situation. Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's one. It feels like it's like one of those puzzles where like you can kind of like semi figure it out, but like you don't really know what's in the end. There's more questions than there are answers to the questions that we come up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, once again, going back to this, again, not endorsing the methods, but the message is pretty compelling and like kind of similar to what especially like the last conversation we had about getting. There's nothing wrong like with blue collar jobs. When he confronts like the police chief, and threatens him to call off like their investigation of Project Mayhem. He runs it down. He breaks it down for him. It's like, we drive your ambulances, we cook your meals, we watch you as you sleep. It's blue collar people. It's not white. It's not the white collars
Yep.
that he references, and it's like this idea that that these elitist, like these people with elitist mindsets, um, have, like that they can hold people back, or that they can uh, reshuffle or recategorize these people to like be terrorists, or be part of like this underground boxing club. It's like these are actual people. These are people who you depend on, and for you to go and call, disparage them and call them like terrorists or whatever is not okay.
Yeah. And in reality, it's one of those things. Like, yeah, that's true. Like the elite class, the political and social elite class that you and I rail against, and not everyone that's part of that is necessarily a bad person, but the ones that are of that always talk down to people of a lower class, and a lot of these guys are in media and the government, and a lot of the things that we think are bad, are not good organizations anymore. The reality is, case in point, a lot of these politicians that have these like that are railing against like we need to defund the police, we need to we need to get rid of this and that, and things that people like uh in like a lower class rely upon for safety or whatever else in their life, and it's like, oh, we need to get, but the elite class that are railing against that at the same time hire private security, or they pay the police extra to make sure that they have an extra security detail for
Mm-hmm.
themselves, like an AOC or a Bernie Sanders, all these people that are saying like defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in reality, it's like a lot of like the police forces that are semi forced to do that stuff is like, yeah, you know what? Fuck you. You're essentially like creating laws to destroy our job and to vilify us. Why in the hell would we waste our time protecting you? We're the people that like protect you while you sleep. We're the people that like run your gas. We're the people that run your power. And if you want to destroy us, go for it. And but if you know if you're gonna do that, we're gonna we're gonna make you pay.
Right. It's the whole fuck around and find out kind of
Yeah,
mentality.
which in a way, yeah, obviously this movie shows it in a really fucked up way, but in the reality, it's like I yeah, I get it. Like if I was a police officer and you'd have these people who are saying like defund the police, I am not wasting 1 minute of my time protecting those people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like there's been a chilling effect over over policing. Some might call it the Ferguson effect. Some may call it the George Floyd effect. It's like these cops, like, why am I gonna risk my neck, with when some punk with a cell phone camera might catch me, might record me and then blast me on social media, calling me like an oppressor, or you know if if it doesn't go the right way, then like they'll call me a murderer.
Yeah, well, and that's
And what is it like? What is it? I think there was a article that came out and said like cops are now doing more passive. They're not doing any like, or like they're not reacting to um, what is it? They're no longer answering calls for like kind of more dangerous or potentially dangerous calls anymore.
yeah.
And so like
What?
yeah, so and that's why crime is like kind of spiked like crazy all over the country.
Yeah,
Because
well,
cops are afraid to do their jobs essentially.
yeah, well, and also like a lot of cops are either resigning or quitting or retiring, and let's say like they're in like Wisconsin or Michigan or more of like a liberal area, and people in like Texas or Florida is like, hey, why don't you come to our state and we're not going to treat you that way. You're we're going to respect your position. We're not going to defund the police and vilify you.
Yeah. Something else I was gonna mention.
Well, one thing that like I also noticed, with this movie too is, this is kind of like there's a lot that's being said in this movie that is actually like very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yet at the same time, this is a movie where the um the extremes of those things that are being like advocated in the movie become apparent, and it's like, oh, there is a dangerous aspect to some of the thought processes in the movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
And like I said, there's a lot that is being said that is like is very accurate and is worthy of thought and discussion. But there's a lot that is the things that are being done in the movie are excessive and are not not a good thing.
I guess the last thing for me is the ending. And I think he ought to have died.
He, do you think he did die?
That's I don't think he died. Well, because okay, I'm just going off of like what is presented, and it's presented that he didn't die. He even though he put a gun in his mouth, he pulled the trigger, and for some odd reason, like the bullet went out the side of his mouth. But the place where Tyler Durden, like where the bullet came out in Tyler Durden's head, it was like on the top of his head, like right here.
Yeah.
As opposed to when where the bullet came out, in the narrator, which is like the side of his like his cheek.
Face.
Yeah, the side of his face. Um, I think Tyler Durden. I think the narrator / Tyler Durden should have died.
Yeah. The
Because it's like, I mean, I'm not advocating for suicide, but it's like, he's finally made peace with himself, right?
right.
And like, and it's like, how do I, it's like, and I think he understands that like Tyler Durden is a very powerful person. He wields a lot of power. He's very charismatic, and there's like
Why
there and
created a whole cult?
yeah, exactly. Tyler Durden started a cult of personality, and so and I think at the end he finally did kind of come to what's the word I'm looking for? He's finally able to make peace with himself. And
Yeah.
so, the narrator, and I think the narrator should have died.
Hmm.
So I think him like not dying was a bit of a cop out.
Yeah, because in a way, because he's still responsible for all of the Tyler Durden actions,
Exactly.
and
Exactly. Because I mean, like, the law makes no distinction between him and Tyler Durden. And like, and yeah, and again, like, yeah, he did make peace with himself, and so like maybe uh, now he's able to what is it take responsibility for all of the actions, like even though they weren't necessarily his, um, but I think the narrator should have died along with Tyler Durden.
I I don't disagree with you in a way. Um, yeah, it. It's, this is just a really fucked up movie.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure what to think about the ending at the same
Yeah,
time.
I mean, because like, what does it do except like extend his legend? Because
Yeah.
he
Well,
was like what he survived a gunshot. It's like, oh man, did you hear about Tyler Durden? Yeah. Oh, he survived the suicide attempt.
I think that also says more, not necessarily about like Tyler Durden or the narrator. I think that says a lot more about like the people that have chosen to surround themselves to
As
him.
followers, yeah, as followers.
Yeah, his followers. So like where they look at him as like, oh my god, this guy's crazy person.
Yeah, but he's a visionary. It's kind of like the cops. That turn out to be some of his disciples, and it's like like, oh sir, we think this is a beautiful gesture you're making. Giving up your balls. Basically, because Tyler knew that the narrator would go to the police and try to like spoil the plans. And so he told his his cop disciples like, hey, I'm gonna come in here one day and I'm gonna try to stop Project Mayhem, but you have to stop me. You have to take my balls.
Yep. Yeah.
And then like and again like you see like the response of those cops is like, oh, this is a really brave thing you're doing, sir. It's just like, what?
Yep. And that's the thing. It's like when it comes to these cults and like the cult of personality is, and this is kind of like where this is so relevant to today, where everyone just kind of like buys in and they don't ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
and you get
Right.
caught up in something before you realize like what the hell you're doing.
Right. And then everyone becomes Robert Paulson.
Yep, with bitch shits.
Yeah. His name is Robert Paulson.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else like really to say about the film. Like I'm still, to be honest, I'm still working through it. Like there's still so much like that I need to think about with with Fight Club, because there's a lot to dive into, and we only had like 45 minutes to really talk about the movie, but this really is gonna need more time. I need to ruminate on it more.
All right. Yeah. Um, yeah. Again, like this is one of those movies where you can watch it one year and then watch it the next year, and you will get two different meanings,
Yeah.
or you'll gain like different insights. I mean, again, depending on like where you are in your life. But yeah, I mean, I think we just like scratched the surface on this one.
Oh, absolutely. Really, it's only we're only scratching the surface with Fight Club, because we could probably talk for like another 2 hours, really breaking down Fight Club.
Mm-hmm.
And all I really have to say about this is that you should watch it several times, um, and really think about what's going on. And like once you know the twist, watch the movie like without kind of like without the idea of just kind of like letting the movie take you where it wants to take you. Then watch the movie like kind of with like the understanding of what the twist is. Watch it that way, and then watch it again and again, because there's something new to be taken away from it. Like what's it saying about society? What's it saying about uh kind of how the world works? And
Consumerism, masculinity, even the role of the father.
then
Because
even like is what it's saying, is that correct either? Like it is, because it's the one thing about this movie is our narrator is extremely unreliable.
right,
So
yeah, I mean, yeah, talk about your unreliable narrators. This guy.
yeah, and do we take his word for it of like what's happening, or do we take ourselves outside of the movie and like look at it from that way? And like I said, both ways are a completely different movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Fight Club, awesome. I extremely enjoyed watching the movie.
All right. Well, yeah, that's all I had to have to say about that. I think Robert is done as well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
let's give our ratings and we'll wrap it up.
Andy, this is a movie that you love very much. Why don't you start off?
Yeah. I'm giving this one a 4.
Wow, I actually thought you were gonna be higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love this movie, but that doesn't mean don't recognize like some of the flaws and like yeah, this I understand like there's like some half baked philosophy in it as well. But again, like yeah, like the end, I didn't really care for the ending. Um, but I still love this movie.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5, just because this is a movie that you can always go back to, um,
Yeah, the
and you're gonna think,
rewatchability of this movie is very high.
oh, very high. But even like, yeah, I recognize there are a few flaws, and some of the themes are they're a little rough to get through, just because this is not necessarily a right wing or a left wing movie, though depending on which movie film critic you talk to, they're gonna this is a super right wing toxic masculinity film, and those other people are gonna be like, oh, this is a communist manifesto film, and it's none of those things. But obviously, depending on what side of the aisle you fall on, that could be something you take away from it. And it has its flaws, but it's still the fact that you can watch this movie again and again and again and take something new away from it, I think is a good thing. So, and rewatchability is gives it a huge point punch, a star punch for me. So that's why I give it a 4.5.
All right. There you have it. That's our review for Fight Club. I give it a 4. Robert gives it a 4.5. Definitely a good movie. Would recommend. Highly recommend.
And remember, don't talk about fucking Fight Club.
Yeah, remember the first and second rule is you don't talk about Fight Club. But we broke that shit because we talked about Fight Club.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like everyone talks about Fight Club.
Everyone talks about right, because just like Tyler Durden said, seeing a lot of new faces, which means people are breaking the first 2 rules of Fight Club. Watch this movie.
In reality, it should have only been Tyler Durden and the narrator.
Right. Although you have to think, what if those, because this shows 2 guys seeing them fight, but it's really only just the narrator. So, what attracted them to this idea of Fight Club, or this idea of fighting, if it was just the narrator by himself?
What if this was always just in the narrator's head? None of this actually happened.
That too. Because unreliable narrator.
We really don't know.
We really don't know.
None of this could have happened.
It couldn't have happened, or all of it happened exactly the way it's portrayed.
Yeah.
That's it's up to you to decide which reality you choose to.
I'm almost thinking that none of this happened.
It could be just the kind of the scribblings of a madman, in an asylum, just writing all over the walls or whatever.
Well, and the thing is, because this is from a book too, and the narrator ends up in an insane asylum, so
that too.
And the way the movie ended was very different, but the fact that the book ends in with him in an insane asylum, I don't know. I think that all this could have been all in his head.
Maybe.
But that's what I gotta say. The movie's awesome. Watch it.
All right, there you go, folks. That's our review. 4 for me, 4.5 for Robert. Watch it. Get lost in it and enjoy.
You can get lost in it very easily.
Yeah, there you go. That's that's the stream for tonight. I know we went really long tonight, but it's never not a bad time. I hope you guys had a good time. I had a good time. Rob always has a good time.
I had a great time.
Don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. Circle of Jerry's main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to check us out on our various social media accounts: Twitter and Letterboxd @PodcastCOJ, and Instagram @Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us again. Come back next week and we'll do it all over again.
Yeah, we got the Skulls next week.
That's right, Skulls. Have a good night.